Hello and welcome to DCP Live episode number 266. Got nothing to talk about today, guys. Not a single thing.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Halo instead.
First off, Mactics, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, there's a few things. There's a few things to talk about, obviously.
Like one or two?
There's a couple things to talk about.
Just a few, yeah. Yeah, Briar's sick. In quotations. Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was trolling pretty hard for a sick man.
Where should we get started? Mac, let's how'd you get started streaming?
Yeah, tell us about yourself,
Yeah.
Mac.
I get that question a lot. Like, how did I start streaming? And I don't know the answer.
One day you woke up and
I
you're a
will
streamer.
uppercut you if you say you fell into it. Go on.
Obviously there has to be a reason that like I decided to one day, right? But like I can't remember it.
You don't remember going live for your first time?
Not really. Well, I remember when I did. So
Yeah.
it was August of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like mid-pandemic. So like I'm sure that played a role into it. I was probably like kind of bored.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've been playing Destiny since like Taken King Spring.
Okay.
So like, is that 2016? I think
That is, yeah.
because Rise of Iron was 2016, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like April 2016 is probably when I like touched Destiny for the very first time, because I didn't really play video games too much before that. But my brother was like, he loved Destiny. He was always talking about it. He was, I went flawless in the Trials of Osiris. I was like, oh, I don't know what that means, but cool. But like I picked it up because I wanted to play with him. So I got into Destiny, and I just played the game. I didn't do Twitch. I didn't use Twitter. Like I don't think I even knew what a TWAB was until I probably played for like a year, and then I decided like make my own clan, start recruiting people.
Oh, nice.
And find more fun people to play with. And so that clan's been around for like a little over 4 years now or something like
Cool.
that.
What's the name of it?
Garrison.
Very cool.
So,
very cool.
well, originally it was Garrison 1, but we renamed to Garrison in like, I think like right before Shadowkeep, I think, or something like that.
Slight rebranding for the clan.
Yeah, it's like, the one name tags are way sweatier. So
That's
bonus.
true. We do call it out. We're like, oh man, that's a one name gamer,
Yeah.
one name clan. We're dead.
Bonus.
Yeah, it'll be like
And Wolf
cheese.
too. They have the Bungie bounty emblem. Might as well back out. But yeah, I played for a while, and then for some reason I like, as we all kind of like played with each other, got better at the game. Like I think the natural next step was to like, start to make a name for the clan, and hopefully to increase the reputation of it, get more people in it, get more people to play with and stuff like that. So I'm sure that played into me deciding to start streaming, just kind of like as a
Clan growth? You're like, we
as a
need more people in here?
representative of the clan. Yeah. Now it's turned much more into like a friend group.
Sure.
Because I think we've kind of realized that Destiny is not necessarily a game that you play every single day anymore. So now it's more so a friend group. It's like, oh, hey, Halo just came out. Let's all go play Halo together. Or, let's all go play. What was the Squid Game crab game?
Crab game.
Let's all play. Just a place for people to hang out.
Yeah.
So when you first started, did you have like a certain thing you focused on? Was it PvP or was it PvE or was it just a bit of everything?
Not really. I just I streamed my gameplay, like whatever I felt like doing that day. That's what it was. And then kind of figured I liked it a good bit. Like it seemed fun. I enjoyed it a lot. So then I actually put an effort into growth, and I've always been like a big fan of PvE. Like I'm fine at PvP, but like raiding and stuff like that, like that's been the side of the game that I've always been in love with. So
Nice.
The first raid I ever did was King's Fall, naturally, because I started in April of King's Fall. And I remember, I think I did my first raid like 2 weeks into the game, because I found a team of people that like just kind of took me through and showed me everything, and they were very helpful, and like they made like my first raiding experience so incredible. And so yeah, that's something that's always really stuck with me really hard. So I've done my best to kind of like carry the favor forward to as many people as I can. And so I think like doing raid help and now Grandmaster Nightfall help is kind of like the number one thing I do right now, but kind of like doing my best to kind of like get other people involved into like the more end game aspects that maybe they're a little shy to get into. Because I know how impactful it was for me way back when I started back in 2016, and like really made me fall in love with the franchise because I not only got to experience like a really cool side of the game, but I also like got to experience like that the community like is really incredible about liking to
camaraderie,
help people out, and just make them feel like a part of, you know, that they want you to experience all the fun stuff, even if they have to, you know, take an extra 5 minutes to explain something to you. So
it's incredibly impressive to be only streaming for like a year essentially and to be in the spot you are now, because that is tough work. I think I feel like I need to get a disclaimer. Kids, if you're trying to do this is incredibly good to do a year of streaming to be in this spot. Like, and be like, oh, you know, I thought I'll fire up the stream, just give it a crack. Straight in. It's really well done, man. That is hard work, and you've done a really good job of building a community and filling a need and being entertaining.
Yeah, I want to touch more on that as well. Like, what have you been doing specifically then to grow a community? Like, have you been, you know, like have you been using other social platforms? Have you been using YouTube, using TikTok or stuff like that?
Yeah. So I think one of the most difficult times to grow as a streamer is like that first stretch, right? Like getting your first 5 viewers, 10 viewers, and whatever. I think that's really difficult because like that's when you're just starting. You don't know anything. Like, how are people supposed to find you, right? And I think a lot of like 99% of that to me is attributed to my clan, because like right out the get-go when I started streaming, like I probably had like 15 viewers right out the gate on a regular basis, 10 to 15 viewers, because like my clannies would just hang out in there. And so that like that was like the spark, right? Like that's what ignited everything. That's the start, because like it's so impactful because then you have an active chat. It's way easier to kind of like carry conversations and stuff like that. Your stream's a little higher up in the directory because of the view count. It's going to start getting recommended to people because Twitch sees a brand new stream. It sees, you know, people are already in it. Must be appealing. If like that many people are in a stream right out the get go. So at the early stages of the growth, that's everything, right?
Like an early seal of approval for people to come in.
Right. Transitioning to like more so the mid period. I think, you know, just kind of offering help. I did my best to like always, you know, be asking people, you know, hey, what do you need help with? You need this weapon, you need that, you need to do this raid. I was doing a lot of divinity help, like Petra's run help, the Flawless Last Wish. Oh damn, makes me sad. Back when like Crown of Sorrow and Scourge were still in the game. You know, doing like I think it was like a Diamond and Crown of Ease, I think were the name of the triumphs. But like just trying to help people out with stuff. And so not only does that kind of like help grow a community, not that that's necessarily the reason I was doing it, so that they would stick around, but you know, I like to help people. I like to return that favor. And obviously
builds community with that.
People are naturally going to be like, oh, you know, you helped me out. We spoke a little bit during that raid. You seemed like a cool individual. Maybe I'll stick around your stream a little bit more. And obviously that's also great because it just automatic, the content creates itself, right? You don't really have to be, because something that's really tough to do as a content creator is like, you know, what am I going to do today? And having a game plan, I think, for what you're going to do in your stream is really strong, because then you can focus entirely on entertainment and interactivity with your chat, as opposed to kind of like figuring out something to do. If like right when you go live, you're like, I know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do this. I have it all set up. It kind of takes away something that you need to worry about. So I would say that's kind of the mid stage. That's where like I transitioned from like small streamer into.
Hold on, I just gotta take some notes. Keep going.
Myler, you were gonna do trials carries. I remember.
Write it down, chats. How to be successful, quick.
I'd say that's like the transition from like small streamer to like someone who was like in contention for Twitch partner, which was obviously like a big goal. And then more recently, where I'm like actually trying to turn this into something that could potentially be a career, something that could be like a financially secure option to like make a living off of. Now it's all about like diversification of content, throwing stuff in as many places as you can. And I'm sure a ton of people have heard about Harris Heller. And I think some people who keep up with his content might also know of an individual named Devin Nash, who I think is like a little maybe less well known than Harris Heller, but like still gives incredible advice. And they do a lot of videos on how to grow on Twitch, how to grow your social media stuff like that. And the thing that they will like hammer into your brain on a regular basis is you will not grow on Twitch strictly by streaming on Twitch. You need to put content on other platforms that's extremely discoverable. Put it in as many places as you can for as many eyes to see, and then the people that find you there, you know, that you plug your Twitch and wherever your content is, whether you're putting it on YouTube, whether you're putting it on Twitter, TikTok, you plug your stream in there. Hey, I stream live here, by the way, if you want to stop by.
Yep.
That's how you bring people into the Twitch.
I agree with everything you've said. They're all really good advice.
The main focus right now is, especially YouTube. I think YouTube's really interesting too, because there's...
I just checked the YouTube chat. Your last video got 42,000 views, mate. 2 days. That's excellent.
The algorithm is like really, really complex, and it's like it's a big like equation to solve of like what title does well versus what title won't do well. Like how should the content be structured? Like it's more than just, it is a creative outlet, don't get me wrong. It's very like, oh, I'm going to make something that's cool and quality, but like that's the baseline, right? After that, for it to actually explode and reach a lot of eyes, it's like, how do I market this?
If you're trying to reach new people through YouTube, right, you do have to play the game.
It's been an interesting problem to kind of work out.
Yep.
And you figure
it's kind of nice to
learn
have
a little bit more.
Twitch, right? It's nice to have like Twitch where you can do more of the community-based stuff, and then YouTube is kind of treat it like advertisement, right? It's like I'm putting in work and time to put my advertisement out there to get more people. So you're kind of playing the game on YouTube, and then on Twitch you can kind of hang out and chill with your community and have a good time.
Yes, definitely.
It is nice to have both.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. It's great that
very good advice.
Yeah, great advice, and it's always interesting peeling back the layers and seeing where people came from. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah,
awesome. You've got a lot of knowledge, considering you said you only sort of started on Twitch a year ago, and they're like things that have taken me many years to work out and to put into practice. You have a very analytical mind in how you approach Twitch and YouTube, and I think everything you said is fantastic advice. So.
Thanks.
Go check out the streams. How do I get famous? Just spamming. Please help.
I think the Destiny community and like the Destiny Twitch community too has been like massive in that, because I mean, you have so many people out here that are already established, who have already figured it out to some degree, and they're more than willing to help you on your journey, and kind of, hey, what do you think of this title versus this title? They'll give you your opinion on why. And like I think there's so much to learn from other people that are already well established, and I'm very thankful to all the individuals that have like taken the time to answer any questions I have and kind of help me through this journey, because it really helps you skip
Here's
a few
question for you. How good is your Australian slang?
Awful. Probably. I know like rubbish in the bin, and
right. We got a lot of TWAB to go through. Do you want to do a speed round of Australian slang?
I'll probably know zero of it. I heard I think it was 2 weeks ago maybe, but I heard something about I think most of my Australian slang I know from watching the show. So I know thongs are sandals. I know that one. Right. That's because I watched the show.
Flip flops, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say if an Australian was watching this show right now, they might be like, "Get to the TWAB, stop piss farting around." Does that make sense?
Probably messing around, bullshit.
Yeah,
around.
It's fun. Yeah, mucking around, messing around.
Yep.
That is a lot of mess if you're doing that. Yep.
I feel like that's adjacent to banging spiders.
Though.
Yeah, it was a context clue. What if I said to you, pass me a stubby holder? What would you pass me?
What?
Wallet.
Stubby holder.
Stubby
pass
holder?
me a stubby holder. Yeah.
Wallet.
No.
Thinking like,
your beer koozie.
A beer koozie. I had
yes. Yeah. Is that what you call them?
A beer.
It is a beer koozie.
Beer koozie is what.
Yeah, it's like a little sleeve thing you put beer in.
Yeah, to keep
so your hand
keep
doesn't
it
get
cold.
Yeah, stubby holder. Because
stubby
you call
holder?
you call it a stubby. A beer.
A beer is a stubby then? Yeah. Okay.
Huh.
Stubby holder.
Would you get a pint of
One more,
stubby?
One more. Hard one.
One hard one.
Yeah. No context clues.
Okay. Chakasiki.
Oh, Colin sick.
Yeah, Colin sick, man. Chakasiki, yeah.
That's a British
that?
thing too.
Wow. I had no
It's
idea.
what? Chuckin' sicky?
Chakasiki.
Chuck-a-sicky. Like throw. You could also say like throw a sicky, I guess.
Throw the fact that you're sick
if
to
you
your
were
boss.
gonna like take a day off work, I'll have a sick day. Chakasiki.
Chuck-a-sicky.
It was like
Okay.
Yeah, pull a sicky is also like another way that maybe makes more sense to you because you're pulling a sicky.
Like hooky, kind of, yeah.
I tell you what, this is hard yakka right now.
Do Americans have slang
Fair
like that
dinkum.
no one else understands?
Probably.
I have to,
the thing is, a lot of things are so Americanized. It's probably less
True.
than
Like it gets
Australian
curated
sayings.
in American culture and then spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Speed round.
That was great.
Now we
Feel
know
like I learned
more
something.
things to say at Mylan incorrectly, so he yells at us.
Yes.
Whenever you have a car, Mylan, I'm gonna say, pass me the stubby.
Yeah.
Stubby holder. There's a car now.
Pull the stubby holder off the wall.
Pull the stubby holder off the
We're
wall,
going into
wall
B
and
point.
get in the.
So we intentionally use them improperly.
Yes.
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 That's
Make
the
him angry.
plan.
Yes. So then when Chris Proctor comes on, he yells at me for saying things wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, we just try to make people feel uncomfortable. That's all. You know?
Yeah, that's it.
It's the main
If you
goal
don't
of the
feel
show.
like you're in a hostage situation, then we're doing it incorrectly.
Yeah, something's wrong.
God, send help.
When he reaches insanity, we consider stopping.
Yeah.
But like
But only
probably not.
then.
Yeah, Briar won't stop.
So we got a big TWAB.
TWAB.
Lots to talk
Yes.
about.
Twabby.
Should we
Many
just jump
things.
right into it?
Yeah, 30th anniversary is happening on December 7th. Glad we
Yes.
talked about that. Moving on.
Yeah, that's happening. Cool.
Next.
No,
Is that the only thing?
Next. There's a massive Sandbox update. So we are going to split this with reading. We'll just see how it goes. When I
Sounds
feel like
good.
I'm in a desert and dying, I'll
Yeah,
pass
parched.
it over.
Needing to drink water.
And I'm going to read a lot of it because I think getting the context behind why they're doing changes is also incredibly helpful to understanding
sure.
design process and all that good stuff. So earlier this year, we heard overwhelming feedback that the Crucible has been largely dominated by ability usage. Players felt that abilities were firing off too frequently with too much potency and too little investment. At its core, Destiny is a game about space magic, so any adjustments to our abilities must be made with care. We believe the changes we have made will keep the heart of what makes Destiny abilities fun intact, while shaving down some of the excessive cases we've seen out there. I feel it's important. This is Kevin Yanis speaking.
I was going to say, yeah.
This is Kevin Yanis. I feel it's important to reinforce here that part of Destiny's strength is that it's a live game and we're able to iterate and improve the game as time goes on. This means that we're building new foundational systems like the one you'll read about today with that in mind. We're giving ourselves more balancing knobs to tune than we've ever had before, and we hope you'll start to see why that's so important as you read on. So we are going to be jumping into the 30th anniversary Sandbox update. So this is hitting on December 7th.
Yeah.
So this isn't even a Witch Queen update. This is a
mid-season bump.
mid-season bump thing. Yeah. So now we have Eric Smith going into some details. So they're changing the way ability cooldowns work. So this is a fundamental, foundational, massive change, which I was not expecting. So up until now, cooldowns across individual ability types, grenades, melee, class, super, have generally been identical between all abilities of the same type. For example, all the grenades in today's Destiny 2 share the same cooldown with the exception of stasis grenades. This shared cooldown means that all grenades need to have roughly the same power output because they all have the same time cost. For the 30th anniversary, we've made a change that allows us to tune the cooldown of each ability separately. This gives us a new knob to turn when balancing abilities that are too powerful or not powerful enough. Now that we have this new system in place, we've done a cooldown tuning pass of all the subclass abilities in the game, tuning each ability's cooldown time against its power output. We've also turned ability power outputs and assigned cooldown times accordingly. The best example of this might be the Flux grenade, which is what we're starting with, which I think is one of the more controversial changes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. So the Flux grenade, it's getting its base cooldown from 82 seconds to 182 seconds. So they're adding 100 seconds to the cooldown,
like
which is
over 100%
significant.
increase. Yeah.
It's a significant.
It's like longer than most like people get their supers in today's sandbox, or maybe not most people, but
it's a long 182 seconds is a lot.
Yeah, quite a bit of time.
Yeah,
3 minutes.
They also increased the attached detonation damage from 150 to 250, so it is a one-shot kill in PvP.
Sticky nades, baby.
3-minute cooldown though, so you better not miss.
See, so we'll keep going because they did some other stuff to it as well. They also increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15% on top of base damage increase. Seems like just in general, there's a lot of PvE buffs for the most part.
Well, they said across the board, all nades are getting 15% increase in damage. Which
all
is
nades
smart.
are getting 15%. Yeah,
right. I like that.
Yeah. They've removed projectile tracking and added a small amount of aim assist and increased the throw speed by 117%, and it sticks to all surfaces. So now when you throw like any of these kind of grenades, you can see them curve to track the person. They're not going to do that anymore, but you are going to have a little bit of help hitting it.
It's going to be a little bit closer to an actual Halo sticky.
Yeah.
Right?
It's going to come at you fast. Too,
it is going to be very fast.
They're more than doubling the throw speed of it, so it's going to you might blink and not see that it's stuck to you.
I just imagine just yeeting it going through multiple walls out the back.
With the speed increase also comes its wall busting power, so that you can hit people through a building.
Yeah. True sight.
Environmental destruction, just with this nade.
It has a 3-minute cooldown. God damn.
I honestly, I didn't really have time to check Twitter or Reddit, but what's been the major complaint? Is it because it's a one-shot sticky? Is that sort of
people
are
I think it's because it's a one-shot, and then they also removed a one-shot ability later in the TWAB, so people were like,
it seems a bit contradictory to remove one-shot stuff and then add.
Right. Yeah. Now Kevin Giannis on Twitter.
Just gonna say the sacrifice is it's such a long cooldown though, so you're not gonna.
It's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes.
And I mean, I'm sure you can shorten that, with like specking and discipline and all that, but still, it's like it's gonna be a long cooldown regardless.
But that kind of goes into what we were talking about with Chris Proctor, right? Where we were talking about if you want to use something or have a certain playstyle, they want you to spec into that specifically. So if you want to have a high uptime on your Flux grenade to get one-shot kills in PvP, you're going to have to really spec into that not spec into other things.
Yeah.
And with multiple things, not just like one thing to spec into it, but like actually a build around Flux grenades.
Yep.
I'm curious too, like looking at the current, and they said the base cooldowns, right? I know it's later in the TWAB, but I think they said the base cooldowns were based on tier 3, right? And not actually based on tier 0.
Yeah, because it's negative after tier 3. Before tier 3,
currently, if you have tier 3 discipline, your grenade goes off or your grenade's up in 1:20. And if you have tier 10, your grenade's up in 32 seconds. So it's like more than... that's like almost like a third of the original time, right? So I'm curious if if you decide you want to rock Flux grenades and you put 10 into discipline, does that mean that this cooldown, if it matches similarly to what the current percentages are in the game, does that mean that 182 seconds turns into approximately just a minute? And does that make it feel significantly more oppressive than...
I don't think that they would not tune those. I think they're definitely going to tune the tiers for the actual discipline and all that, because, like, yeah, it's pretty aggressive on how it could affect
you
it.
think they'll, like, modify the percentages based on tiers along with...
I would imagine so, yeah.
It'd
be a little strange if they didn't modify that with all these additional things, knowing that, you know, you could have, like, a significant reduction like that. So, I mean, obviously they want to make it worth going to tier 10, but at the same time, they're trying to pull back from all these one-hit kills or the spam, the grenade or the ability spam that's happening. So, yeah, I don't think that they've said anything about that though. So maybe they're not.
I don't think they've clarified.
Right.
Maybe it's going to be Witch Queen. They might retune
how deep
those.
are they? Like, how deep are they tweaking things? Right.
Yeah.
To like to the tier levels. Is kind of unknown at this point.
I mean, I guess the good thing is all of it's been separated, right? So if Flux grenade is too strong, they don't have to hit all grenades or all arc grenades or all hunter grenades. They can just go and hit Flux grenade.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
This is amazing. This is
it's a big deal.
Incredible change in the Destiny system that you kind of think about. You think about it and go, "Wow, I can't believe they didn't have this before."
Yeah.
You know, because this is.
I was like, yeah, seems obvious,
too,
right?
Yeah.
Because you see so often, I think a lot of people, and I have a computer science degree, and I don't even know like what all goes into like back end game development when it comes to making a change. But I feel like you see people all the time on like Twitter and stuff like that who just say like, "Oh, just something's broken, just nerf it." Like how hard can it possibly be? Just make it do less. And like the truth is, it's incredibly complex on the back end. So like,
Telesto's sitting
I think
in the
something
corner.
like this for being able to snap your fingers and make a change that can be applied, you know, within a couple days is really, really massive. And I think I'm hoping that something like this, because we get like what, 4 Sandbox updates a year, typically. I'm hopeful that something like this means we get more Sandbox updates per year, potentially. Because they have a lot more control.
Hopefully they can be more...
this feels just like a foundation for the big reworks coming in. Like,
big time.
Not only is it like the whole subclass is going to be reworked, but now they've got fine-tuning in grenades.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I think they probably were like, we're reworking every subclass to be like Stasis. We can't have every grenade be the same.
Yeah. It's a great like future-proofing thing to have, because like when people always say like, "Oh, how long can it possibly take to fix something?" The answer is very long, and something like this just like totally changes the landscape of how quickly they can mobilize on like making a change potentially.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And of course there was a decent amount of discussion about it on Twitter, being like, "What the hell? It's a one shot. That's stupid."
Yeah.
So Kevin did go on Twitter and said that we tuned it to be difficult to land at longer ranges. In general, we believe one-shot kill abilities need to be earned through mastery or build crafting. We'll be monitoring its performance though, just in case.
Cool. Yeah, it does sound like it's going to be closer to a Halo sticky nade. Like those are hard to land from a distance, but up close, it's a little bit, you know, just spam it right in front of somebody.
And if they run into you, do you blow yourself up?
Probably. Or if you're me, you'd never land them, and
I would never will. I probably never will. I will try every 3 minutes. I will have a chance at a one-shot kill. It'd be great.
I just remember the Warlock stickies. You just throw them near them and they just curve right onto them.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's what they took away, because my God. Yeah, you would see it curve to your foot and you're like, God damn it.
It's like curve on them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So, and then we have next is the Firebolt grenade, which is getting a reduced base cooldown from 82 seconds to 64 seconds, reduced damage per bolt from 90 to 65, and it's increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15%. So that's going to be at tier 10 discipline. Firebolt's going to be incredibly fast. But it just does like chip damage. So it's going to be fits in line with kind of what they've been saying, is they want it to be something that accentuates your playstyle or can go along with what you're doing and not be the thing you focus on primarily.
Yeah.
And then we have these kinds of varied cooldowns and power outputs should make the game feel more dynamic and give more depth to build crafting. To make build crafting around cooldowns easier, you'll now be able to see the base cooldown time of your abilities when selecting them on your subclass screen. That's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. Hey, real
I
quick,
appreciate it.
I just want to say they did say the fireball grenade has a low cooldown time, and then they specifically stated especially at tier 10 discipline, and
Yeah.
also has low damage
Right.
output. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe they aren't going to tweak those, and they're going to keep the scaling with the tier 10.
It may, yeah.
Yeah, because that's
So the lowest would say flux grenades like what, every minute?
Yeah.
Lowest cooldown ish.
Yeah, so the base cooldown, the base cooldown of Flux grenade, or of just any grenades in the current system right now, if you're tier 10 versus tier 3, it's about like a 66% faster acquisition. So if we apply that to the firebolt grenade, which base cooldown went to 64 seconds, then you're having firebolt grenade up approximately every like 20 seconds at tier 10 discipline, maybe 24. If they keep the same
same ratio
percentages ish that they currently have in the game.
So this is good for like if you're a top tree Dawn Blades, you could just run Firebolt and eat it and then get your double Icarus dash.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Which would probably make top tree Dawn better than it is now if it's like a lower cooldown and you're not using it for damage.
Right. It's much more of like a make your other abilities significantly stronger piece of utility in exchange for yeah. I'm also thinking too for like a run and gun play style, like if someone loves to run like shoddy Warlock, you toss your fire before, if you know someone's around the corner, they have a shoddy too, you toss it around the corner before you run around, and you have automatically you have a better one hit kill range than they do because they only have a 140 health now.
Yeah,
so
yeah, definitely.
They're pre-nated.
I think it's
like you're playing Halo.
This would also work with heal nades, right? Like if you run Fireball grenade and you charge it and throw it at the ground to heal teammates or give overshield.
Interesting.
Oh, that would be very
It's very interesting because later on, Well of Radiance is in a league of its own.
It is.
Yeah.
So
Well,
healing Warlock PvP meta.
Good thing we're all Warlock mains here.
First.
Medic class, baby.
We have a Mercy from Overwatch and Destiny now.
Now there is a point worth noting. So a couple things to note about the cooldown times in the UI, which we kind of discussed a little bit. But the base cooldown time is actually the cooldown time at tier 3 of the relevant armor stat. This is because the system technically penalizes you for tanking your stats below tier 3, in which your cooldown would be longer than the base. We're looking to update this to be more intuitive in the future. And then cooldown times for class abilities are not currently displayed due to a technical issue, and they will fix that in the future as well.
Cool.
So just keep an eye on that. The UI is don't go below 3. Okay, just keep everything at 3.
Keep it above 3.
I actually think too. I think that's the way it is in the live game as well at the current moment. So this isn't just like the new system.
Yeah,
it's live game as well that they're currently at tier 3, which I never noticed.
Yeah, I never noticed.
Yeah,
I think you got to work pretty hard to get something below tier 3, to be honest.
I have tier 2 resilience, so I must be.
Do you?
Yeah.
Right.
Why do I?
I retract my statement.
I really don't like resilience. Keep it as far away as possible. I love getting one shot by snipers. It's my favorite.
And they've been calling this the variable ability cooldown system. Makes sense. That's what it is. That's the VAC system.
The VAC system, yeah.
Where have I heard that before?
VAC bands.
I think it is fantastic that they've done this.
I think it's fantastic
so happy
too.
that they're going down this path. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be so nice for them to be able to say, okay, this one grenade is too strong. Let's go in and change that and not have to worry about breaking everything else.
Nerfing the whole grenade system for one
And not
class.
only that too, but you can change things in such, like, you can change any aspect of it, right? Like you can change the damage it does. You can change the cooldown. You can change the, like, it's so much, there's so much more like customizability where nerfs don't necessarily anymore have to be just like, it's
blankets.
It's because the way it currently is you know, all the grenades have the same cooldown. So like if one is way stronger than the rest, like you just have to nerf it. You don't really have a choice. You've never had the option of saying like, okay, well, you know, now we're going to have the option of saying like, okay, this grenade is significantly stronger than the rest and it can be way more impactful to your gameplay. But at the cost of that, you get it way less. And
yeah, I feel like we've seen that many times in the past with Destiny's updates and been like, why did this happen? And
so I think not only will it be like way quicker, but I think it's going to add a lot more variety to the game because I think it's going to allow them to create a sandbox where many different grenades are strong and do a lot of different unique things. Because if it's like, oh, well, this is really, really strong, it's like, okay, well, it has a long cooldown. Ta-da.
Yeah, I definitely hope, though, that the grenades don't become homogenized, you know, like too much balance. So it's like, whatever, you know. I hope there's uniqueness still. I mean, there's obviously going to be uniqueness just with like the Flux grenade, but you know, there's a two-sided street to this. When like you try to balance things too much, then things become bland across the board in there. But yeah, it's a good thing. Definitely the VAC system.
It's definitely very good. Now they note here that one of the design goals this year was to reduce the amount of ability spam and put the focus back on gunplay. To this end, we've made ability cooltimes longer on average than they were before. We don't want the PvE experience to suffer for the sake of PvP balance, though, so we've tried to compensate where possible. For example, we've increased all grenade damage versus PvE combatants by 15% or more. This should make grenades feel like bigger power moments than they do in today's game. Melee ability cooldowns haven't been increased quite as much as grenade cooldowns, and some of the less aggressive melee attacks have lower cooldowns than before. Class ability cooldowns have also generally increased, but the changes vary depending on which ability is equipped. Just a little note there. Now we're going on to Mike Humboldt to talk about super cooldowns. Does anyone else want to take this?
I'll talk.
Who wants to be Mike Humboldt?
I'll be Mike.
Hello, I'm Mike.
Should I read everything that he's saying here?
Yeah, I would say just read everything.
All right, we'll start out from the beginning.
It's nice insight.
Hello, it's Mike.
Hello, Mike.
Since Destiny's launch in 2014, super energy gain has been almost entirely passive. Your intellect stat dictates how quickly your super regenerates, with a few other elements like orbs of power, armor, and weapon perks, and defeating targets as active sources. The system worked well for a long time, but has issues that have grown more obvious as the game has evolved, and overall player skill, especially skill in evaluating how to play around the character build, has increased. For example, in high-stakes games such as Trials of Osiris or Survival, where each life is precious, passive play becomes more common as players sit back and wait for their supers to close out a tied game. In general, we want the most efficient way to gain super energy to be actively engaging in combat. That doesn't mean you need to win every fight, but we want you to try. To get us closer to that goal, we're making a big change to the system. Super regeneration will still have a passive component scaled by your intellect stat, but at a significantly reduced rate on top of your passive regeneration. You will also gain super energy by dealing and taking damage to or from opponents. Here are a few key goals for the new system. In PvE, super uptime should be relatively unchanged from the live game, if not slightly higher. Let's pause right there. So, huge change. Fundamental shift in terms of how super energy has been accumulated over the Destiny world, Sandbox, and all that. So, shooting damage or delivering damage and taking damage is going to be big factors on how you get your super.
It's like Taraba, but supers.
Yeah.
Taraba. Sorry.
Taraba.
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 You reckon it's also taking damage from yourself? Do you reckon it's going to be a grenade that you can spam?
They specifically said on Twitter, they said that they have made it to where you cannot give yourself super
no
energy.
Hacks.
Oh, okay.
That maybe Telesto will come out in Witch Queen and
Telesto's going to break that.
Probably.
Yeah, and people will get their supers instantly, and Telesto will have to go to jail again.
Yeah, it's gonna have to get deactivated. Yeah, this is crazy.
But I like this.
Isn't it?
I like this a lot.
Let's see. We're pretty happy with the frequency of supers in most PvE content. This is Mike again. Hey guys, Mike here. And I don't want to make big changes right now on that front. So they're happy with the way supers feel and happen in PvE. So they want that to feel relatively similar. Everybody should get at least one super in a 6v6 match that goes to the score or time limit, as long as they engage in regular combat. That is interesting,
right?
Yes, because I think back to the early days of D2, and that's pretty much how it was.
You would get one super, yeah, and people were like, I can get one super. People who weren't as good or didn't spec into intellect were getting no supers.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. At least one super in the 6v6 match, if it goes to score or time limit, and they engage in regular combat. So
yeah. So that being said, like I do think. Yes, there's too much ability spam, too much super spam. Like they even reference it at minute 3. Suddenly, everyone's got their freaking supers and it's popping constantly in 6v6, which gets obnoxious. I know. Yeah. So I think some middle ground between where it was in year 1 D2 and where it is now would actually be really welcome. And it sounds like they're trying to do that.
It does. Yeah. I like that it's doing damage or taking damage, because it's going to make it to where people who are not super good at PvP can still, engage in combat and get some super energy, even if they're not getting a bunch of kills or doing a ton of damage. If they're out there engaging and taking damage, they will be getting super energy.
Well, okay,
I'm just gonna be farming super by getting killed.
Yeah, that's what you say.
As possible.
So Mylan, back on the Warlock, get your Well of Radiance, put your healing grenade on, go stand in the middle.
Oh yeah, imagine the stags just tanking.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna jump ahead just a little bit. They say Mike's saying that primary weapon play should have a noticeable benefit in super energy regeneration. So they're talking about balancing how much energy you generate from the damage you do based on the type of damage, whether it's a primary, an energy weapon, heavy, I'm assuming, ability type of damage and all that. Like that's huge. This is huge. This is on another level of just like the ability tuning of being like, yeah, this should have been there from the beginning. Yeah, this makes sense. How
they're rewarding you with super energy for using your primary more. I like that.
Well, it solves a big problem of saying, why would you use your primary when you spawn with special ammo all the time? It's like, well, if you're getting a definite benefit of super energy from using your primary, then that's a pretty big carrot to tell people to be like, hey, if you get kills or deal any damage with your primary, you're going to have that super up quicker.
So who's becoming a bad juju main?
Oh, right. Bad juju, yeah.
DMT. That's where I'm at, man.
But if I kill you with bad juju, which is maybe harder than DMT.
Oh, you're gonna get more. You're gonna get more.
maybe.
Wait, they haven't talked about nerfing bad juju, have they? That'll be on the list, surely.
Yeah, I mean,
bad juju's not super strong. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah, but it gives you.
I know they nerfed Traveler's Chosen because it gave you ability recharge. And killing things with bad juju does give you more.
Yeah,
like, would they forget about bad
that
juju?
Gives you any sort of ability recharge is getting nerfed like by 50%.
Maybe it's because like Traveler's Chosen is actually like fundamentally a really good gun, whereas bad juju right now is not
no one's using it.
It's kind of dumpster.
Well, I think the way Traveler's Chosen was at low stacks, it gave you like there was like a plateau of how much energy it gave you like as the stacks went up. So like even just having like 2 stacks gave you like a pretty significant amount. It gave you like maybe like 50% of like the total that you could get. So like with 10 stacks being like 100%. So I think they just like evenly distributed it because if you go into PvP, and do you get more than 1 stack for a PvP kill with Traveler's Chosen? I don't know if anyone in the history of Destiny has ever used Traveler's Chosen in PvP, so that might be a question mark. But it's 3 per Guardian kill? Okay.
I might be wrong. I might be lying, but I think it is.
Because if it's like 3, with the old Traveler's Chosen, if you get a kill and then you proc the ability, like, I think it was like half your grenade. And then like with this new system, like that would get pretty out of control pretty fast. So
yeah, it's currently 3. They're changing it to 2 stacks per kill.
Okay, and then they like kind of balanced out the how much you get per stack.
Yeah, they definitely they're ironing that out, which makes me think they would look at things like bad juju. And maybe there's no issue with it. Maybe they looked at it and were like, it's not really that far of an
outlier. Because literally one person has used this gun in the past
gun's like really terrible right now, so maybe this is what bad juju needs to
yeah, maybe.
For people to remember that it's in the video game.
Okay, moving on. Let's see. They got. They're also mentioning 3v3. Supers should be less frequent in 3v3 modes than the current game right now, where 2 supers per match is a fairly regular occurrence. These modes are about expressions of player skill. We want that skill to be primarily about team coordination, positioning, intelligent use of your abilities, and first and foremost, gunplay. While there's absolutely skill in outmaneuvering an active super or playing around supers uptime, supers in general are purposely designed to be accessible power fantasies for all players, and that inherently create asymmetry that we need to account for in competitive play. So, yeah,
I think earlier before they talked about 3v3 having like completely different kind of cooldowns for with 6v6, because it's like, if you have a grenade up in 3v3 and you just wait for your grenade every round, that's super strong and doesn't make any sense for it to be the case. So they were gonna tune it differently. So it's it's
interesting.
Sense.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Let's see. I think I lost my place. 1 second. So yeah, with the new system, we're scaling energy gains up and down granularly based on the source of damage, both outgoing and incoming. Outgoing primary damage has a significantly higher return of super damage per damage point than any other type of damage. Significantly.
Bad juju, you're looking better.
Looking even better, bad juju.
Hey, it's going to take me like 18,000 bullets to kill someone. So I'm going to be plugging away at them. And then when I get the kill, big boost.
Yeah. Big gains.
I think by the time you take away half of their HP bar, you'll have your full super anyway from how little damage it does. So the fact that it gives you super energy on a kill is a moot point.
Warlock sitting in stag rifts with bad juju, just farming supers.
I'm sure we will have the stag warlock with DMT.
Yeah.
Plugging away at people. I'm sure that'll happen.
Moving on, they got different supers should come online at different times in a given match, and your super of choice should have an impact on how quickly it regenerates. This is once again one of those things where it's like, wow, this makes so much sense.
Well, yeah, because you see like a golden gun running around, you have like a stasis super happening, you got a hammer titan. It all happens at the exact same time of every match.
Yeah.
Unless you're slaying out massively, which you'll get it a little bit before other people. But yeah, it's like every super in the world comes online at the same time.
Yeah, Mike goes on to mention that in the 6v6 that super o'clock occurs and suddenly everyone's popping it.
It sucks too, like when you're playing quick play, if you're using like spectral blades or like this or that, and you're getting your super at the exact same time that like a Thundercrash user is getting it, like you're always just you're not gonna be able to do anything with your super. Like you kind of almost have to wait until you see them use theirs, or like
hold on to your super
until you know that they're like on the other side of the map as you. So, but I didn't look too carefully at like how they're allocating, like what categories they're putting different supers in. So
that's coming
maybe
up.
It could still be a problem, but that's a potential solution to that issue, and hopefully it works out.
Well, so they're definitely aware of it, and they want to make that change. Continuing down, they basically go right in that. To that end, we've separated supers into cooldown tiers that affect both the passive regeneration rate as well as the damage-based regeneration rate. This tiering was primarily influenced by each super's kill potential, where most one-off supers are unlikely to wipe a team. Unlikely to wipe a team or a room of combatants. But a long-lasting roaming super can and should have a trade-off as a result. I completely agree.
That makes sense, yeah. Makes all sense.
We've also taken into account the general potency of the subclass kits where possible. For example, later on we'll discuss Shatter Dive and changes we're making which impact how effective the Revenant Hunter is in the neutral game, causing us to shift some of the potency to the super's uptime as a result. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. It's also important because they have that in tier 4. I was like, tier 4 for silence and squall. What the hell? And that's why I didn't realize that. It's also important to stress that this is the first iteration of the system where any given super will fall into the recharge rate tiers will change over time as we continue tuning. These are the super regeneration rate tiers that we're launching with on December 7th. So once again, they're reiterating that this is new. They're testing it still. They're going to make adjustments as they see fit. So yeah, the tier 5 fastest possible regeneration. There's one super in there, Well of Radiance.
Well of Radiance with Firebolts, tier 10 discipline and intellect.
I'm like
roll out grenades, baby.
I'm 99% sure that it's going to be extremely oppressive and extremely meta. Because, and I've seen already, like I've played against some people that use Well of Radiance and like trials and stuff like that. And if they're spec for it, if they have like a discipline build and they're tossing that, like, it's tough. It's,
yeah, it is.
Like, it's already like kind of good if you know how to use it. So like, this is probably going to be pretty tough for the first few weeks, I think.
You can throw the grenade down and get all of your team with overshields and just run at the other team.
I'm wondering too, and I don't know if they're going to be able to like go this deep into it, but like it could be an interesting thing that would probably be a lot healthier. I'm wondering if they can dive deep enough so that if you have, so they already said they're changing grenades based on specific cooldowns, like Firebolt will have this, Solar will have this, Fusion will have this. I'm wondering if they can go so deep as to like, if you throw it as a Fireball grenade, it'll have this cooldown. But if you throw it as a healing grenade, it'll have a different
Interesting.
Cooldown. Because I think when you set it up like this, and things like handheld supernova would be another example too, of something that's like very strong, but isn't like an actual grenade itself. It's a perk of the subclass tree that it changes whatever grenade you are using. You're just gonna, it really makes it a lot tougher to balance the grenades around that subclass, because then you're also having to think about the like perk grenades that maybe a certain subclass tree gives you. And I think that
talked about handheld
takes away some of your options.
Later on.
Oh, okay.
I think I read about it.
They do.
So if they talk about handheld supernova, then I would assume if they can tweak that specifically, apart from the 3 base grenades, I would hope that they can. I would hope that they can do the same thing with healing grenade, because I like that could be really scary with like the Firebolt cooldown time.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
They've tweaked when we get to Middle Tree Voidwalker. They talked about handheld supernova, so seems like they have the ability to.
Interestingly,
tweak that.
It's Sanity in chat said, "I wonder if the type of nade you have makes a difference on how much overshield you get." That could be another interesting way of tweaking it, where it's like, yeah, you can have your grenade that comes down, comes up every 2 seconds, but it's not going to give you as much of a benefit as a longer cooldown.
Yeah, wimpy nade versus strong nade. Moving through the tier list, so you had tier 5, Well of Radiance, fastest regeneration. Tier 4, Blade Barrage, and Silence and Squall.
Blade Barrage is, kind of bad, so this makes sense.
It is, yeah. It's so random. I'll be like, how did that person survive? The knives outlined them.
Someone will do it right above me, and I'm like, I'm alive. Nice. Cool. Okay. I go walk away.
I feel like they should fix the super and put it in like tier 3 or 2. Anyways, so yeah, Silence and Squall. I was really surprised to see that there, but again, they're nerf and shatter dive. Then tier 3, we have Shadow Shot, Burning Maul, Arc Staff, Nova Bomb, and Thunder Crash. Interesting.
Interesting that Arc Staff is in there.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that Blade Barrage is in tier 4, but Nova Bomb is in tier 3.
Exactly. I feel, see,
I feel like they're doing this based on stats of like what's most commonly used at the moment, and they got to tweak it once people start overusing stuff.
Right, and I'm thinking too, like I'm trying not to focus too much on like the discrepancies between different supers and different tiers, because they did make it very clear, like this is the first iteration, so like it's things are going to get moved around, but like still like right out the gate, it's because like to me like Nova Bomb moves slower than Blade Barrage. It covers less of an area than Blade Barrage. Like Blade Barrage, you can, especially if you're on like MNK, and you like flick your mouse as you're throwing it, like you can. It's like what, 3 different barrages, right? 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So like you can launch it in multiple different areas and stuff like that. So like, I mean,
well, I feel like these are also tuned on the neutral game, because I sort of said that's why Silence and Squall is up higher, right? So
that's a good point.
Yep.
Ain't nobody using Blade Barrage.
Yeah. Showing up with Blade Barrage is like, really?
Well, maybe I'm going to start using Blade Barrage, because it's tier 4, baby. I'm going to throw fire knives. It's going to be great.
Fire whiffs. But like Silence and Squall is, it like shuts down an area for a long time.
It's really good.
Yeah, you have to run away from that thing. So it shifts the tides really fast. Whereas like a Nova Bomb, it happens, you know, but then, well, I guess if you use the other Nova Bomb, but yeah. I'm just thinking like Silence and Squall feels like it has a long uptime, almost like a roaming super that you don't have to be the roaming super. Like it just goes and does its own thing. Anyways, moving on. Tier 3, yeah, so Shadow Shot and all that stuff. Tier 2, Golden Gun, Chaos Reach, Nova Warp, Storm Trance, Daybreak, and Sentinel Shield.
This was interesting because Sentinel Shield can obviously be bubble, or it can be a roaming super. So
they talked how they're breaking that apart, though. They're gonna switch.
They did, yeah. The Void update is happening, so this is just like in December. This is their first iteration, but I did see it as interesting being in there. Same as Nova Warp being in there.
And then Tier 1, the slowest regeneration is Spectral Blades, Fist of Havoc, Hammer of Soul, Glacial Quake, and Winter's Wrath. So
Titans are down bad in Tier 1.
Yeah, they are.
That is tough.
Yeah. Three out of that list in Tier 1 is Titans.
I mean, Spectral Blades. It's been a while since they've been a nuisance. I mean, I don't know. I feel like
keeping them down.
To your point, though, it could be like a neutral game thing too, because like I feel like flawless execution is pretty strong.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe that's their mindset.
I feel like it will lose all battles against other supers though. Right. So it's interesting that it's going to have its slowest regen.
Yeah,
because everyone else will have their super. But obviously it has the utility of being invis, so I guess you're going to have to be super sneaky.
It does have a long
uptime. Chaos. It loses to Sentinel Shield. It loses to, I'm pretty sure it loses to Arc Staff if the Arc Staff like plays it right. It definitely loses to Thunder Crash, Nova Bomb, Blade Barrage, Squall. Like, it
kind of in the neutral game, right? That the neutral game is really good on it.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
But weren't they tuning this specifically for the super generation? Like outside of neutral game, you know, like this is specific to the super generation.
It's a bit
I don't know because
I'm a bit confused.
The paragraph.
I think maybe it's just context because I guess I mentioned Silence and Squall like, hey, we've bumped Silence and Squall up because we know the neutral game of Revenant's going to be a bit
right because it says it above
to justify.
Where was it? It says.
Did they mention that?
Yeah, for example, like right above it, it says, for example, later on we'll discuss Shatter Dive and changes we're making, which impact how effective the Revenant Hunter is in the neutral game, causing us to shift some of that potency to the super's uptime. So I think it is very neutral game based where they're putting some of these.
Well, they just consider the whole context of why people might pick that class, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So Spectral Blades having one of the best.
Staff.
Yeah. Are they considering Spectral Blades having one of the best neutral game then?
Yeah, probably.
I think just because
that's what that implies.
Flawless execution is pretty insane.
Arc Staff has a.
I think Shadow Shot's gonna be good once they do the Void rework, man.
I hope so.
I'm
happy
neutral game too.
Happy for my main to shine when I can be a hunter again.
I love how much they're like they've always aimed for like the MMO shooter vibe, right? And I think like the two most impactful things that do that are the loot, the way that the game gives you loot and stuff like this, where you can like really customize your character, and the fact that they're like doing custom tuning to all the abilities to hopefully give them all a place in the sandbox, and then following up with that, we're getting Void 3.0 and then Arc and Solar 3.0. Like it's really exciting, like how many potential like different build paths you're gonna have, and like I can even see a world where you have like. Destiny's always kind of said that it wants like a lot of different builds that you can switch between, but like for the most part, that's really only come down to like weapon balance, in terms of like countering what the enemy team has. But like looking at this, like I can really see a world where you're really having like multiple incredibly different builds for tons of different situations that play totally differently. And I think that's really exciting for the PvP sandbox.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm really happy that they're doing this. I think it's definitely going to get tweaked over time.
for
quite a bit.
Oh, definitely.
Because
it's going to be a balancing nightmare.
Yeah. I feel like first pass, you definitely see some outliers and like, interesting. So, yeah. Moving on from there. As Kevin and Eric mentioned, this sets up a future as we move towards the Subclass 3.0 system. As an example, for the 30th anniversary, things like the Deadfall and Mobius Quiver variants of Shadow Shot will share the same cooldown tier, but with Void 3.0 launch in February, they could exist in different tiers based on their potency. By the same token, Ward of Dawn, which is currently tied to Sentinel Shield cooldown, will be moved into a tier 5 group as a standalone super with Void 3.0. So there you go. They're going to decouple the bubble and put it into tier 5, which would make total sense for that.
Yeah, very good.
I really like that concept of splitting those up.
The more like control and customizability you have, the better.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Moving on from there. Mike says, taking it down a notch, let's talk about non-super abilities for a moment. In the May 27th, 2021 TWAB, Kevin shared our foundational pillars for the role we want abilities to play in PvP combat sandbox. As a quick refresher, this is where we want to be. This is where they're headed. Weapons are the primary way players engage with combat. Non-super abilities accentuate or augment the combat, but should rarely solve an encounter by themselves. Abilities have clear strengths, weaknesses, and counterplay. Build crafting is rewarding within the moment-to-moment combat loop of Destiny. I'd say what we've heard so far is big steps towards that.
Definitely.
Across the board.
I would say so.
Definitely big steps. We're not there yet. In general, ability uptime in the Crucible is too high for their current potency, and it's difficult to understand when an opponent will regain an ability after using it. Some of that uptime comes from passive cooldowns, but many of our outliers also come from elements of the build crafting system that have previously been unified in ability energy returns between PvE and PvP. With the 30th anniversary, we've taken a pass at significant number of these elements. Across subclass perks, armor mods, and exotic armor pieces, we have tuned PvP regeneration separately from their base PvE values, which we are not changing. So PvE is staying the same.
PvE unchanged.
PvE can't be balanced differently than PvP. Crowd is in shambles right now.
They've tried so hard to keep things the same.
They
for
have
6 years. Maybe 7, I can't remember. And they finally said, all right, we have to break all this apart for PvP.
They have to with some stuff, man. Like, I totally understand that they want it to be where, you get a gun or you get a subclass or you get a fragment or whatever, and you know what it does, whether you're in PvE or PvP. But you can totally change like cooldowns, you can change damage, all that stuff separately, and it still have that uniformed experience.
Yeah. Hey, Scooby said in chat, what about Gambit? And what about Gambit?
What about Gambit? I don't know. Gambit
here? I'm pretty sure, like, I think Gambit's considered a PvP mode from like a balancing perspective.
Yeah. Well, isn't it? Maybe it's based on who they're fighting. Like if you're taking
is
damage,
it just the combatant versus a player?
Yeah.
I don't know.
As soon as you invade, your cooldowns go.
There's like some stuff in the game already, right? That is different in PvP than it is in PvE. I'm sure. I know there's like some stuff in there. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But like if anyone knows off the top of their head, I'm sure that could be like tested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love for them to actually talk about Gambit a bit more. I mean, I know Gambit has gone through so many, or it's been dragged through the mud so many times, but Gambit is a unique experience in Destiny.
Don't stasis grenades work differently in PvE than they do in PvP at the moment?
In Gambit?
Yeah, I think so.
So I guess you could go into Gambit, throw a stasis grenade at a PvE enemy, see what it does, and then throw a stasis grenade at an invader and see what it does. And if it has different behavior between the different mob types, then I think you could make the assumption that it does depend on what combatant you're fighting, like you suggested.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I don't
want to take over.
Sure. Yeah.
Just go and finish what you were going to say.
Oh, I would love for them to not give up on Gambit. Again, I know the community drags it through the mud, and I've had my fair share of doing that exact slander against Gambit, but I honestly enjoy Gambit now. Like it's at a place where I don't mind jumping in and playing the mode legitimately. Be like, before I just hold all my modes and I wouldn't bank because I'd be like, whatever, this mode sucks. But now it's like,
I think it suffers from like that. Like it's always tough to match you with randoms in an objective style game mode because like sometimes people just aren't good. Gambit for me has always been incredibly fun to 4-stack, but playing solo feels awful.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of strategy to Gambit that I think people don't think about because they're probably not going in with a full team and sweating in Gambit as much, but like making sure you get the first invade up. So you're just banking what's important for that first invade, like always trying to keep ahead of the invades, and your weapon choice can be really interesting. So it could be super cool, and we've seen how fun it can be when it's in a more structured environment, like when it was played in tournaments at GCX or when people played at Bungie, and it was super fun. It was good. It was an interesting, fun game mode.
I played a couple like Gambit tournaments like maybe 6 months ago or something like that. Just that were like organized by other people in the community, and some people are so coordinated in Gambit, like they will know, they can position themselves on the map specifically so that it forces the enemy invader to spawn in a certain spot, and they'll pre-fire like a rocket at that spot and it will land at their feet as they pop up. It's like this, like Gambit is way more complex than people give it credit for, and like I really hope they don't give up on it either, because it's I would say Gambit's probably like one of the most, if you have a 4-stack versus 4-stack that is actually playing the objective and strategizing and stuff like that, like I think Gambit's like the most competitive game type in Destiny.
When you outline all the various factors in there and you actually take them into serious consideration, I agree. It is.
Yeah, it's so complex.
Very, very complex. Yeah. It suffers from the sandbox dramatically, though. Like just a few outlier weapons can just make people hate Gambit, and that's usually what happens.
Xenophage,
Xenophage and Izanagi's and all. Like you said, those that they basically make people super angry at the mode, and it's basically that weapon of someone invading.
And I think, and Watts, you were talking about how you did like Gambit tournaments at GCX, right? And in that context, everyone like had the same exact loadout, right? Like you guys were playing on like dummy accounts, so like, I think adding like weapon restrictions to stuff is like always like really spooky and dangerous. But like I've always heard people rave about like how fun it was, like when people were playing it for the first time and playing on like the dummy test accounts and stuff like that, and everyone had access to the same weapons, and it just felt like so like fair, but like still in an engaging way. And then but like you said, the second you add like Izanagi's and Xenophage into it, like it warps the entire thing, because
becomes frustrating.
And it's like it feels like everyone is like a bunch of shatter dives, and it's like everyone's killing each other with shatter dives, and it's just like
that's exactly the comparison. Is that it feels like you're going up against a bunch of shatter dives in 6v6, and that's just like I want to.
Like everyone just has like nuclear weapons, and
we had like an okay sniper. It didn't have snapshot or anything. It was a pretty decent pulse rifle, and power weapons that we had generally on these type of builds. Power weapons are not very good, so it was much more like you're invading with a pulse rifle, right? You're trying to get kills with a pulse rifle. Imagine that. Imagine how much more stressful that is to be like, I have a limited amount of time to kill these people with a pulse rifle.
And you invade with 15 motes. Now we're talking.
You have to be like way more considerate about your positioning and how you choose to like, because you can see them, they can't see you. Like, how are you going to reveal yourself at first? Like, how are you going to reveal your position versus like Xenophage? You just run in. You're just like, like I don't, I'll kill everyone anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep. All right.
Per our pillars, we want build crafting to be rewarding, but in its current state, the combinatorial nature
I was like, is that a word?
Combination nature of these perks and items leads to an unsustainable ability energy economy that diminishes weapon play in PvP. For this tuning pass, we focus primarily on items that feed into self-perpetuating loops of ability energy gains. Here's a brief list of the affected items. Subclass neutral game perks. These perks have had their ability energy regeneration reduced by roughly 50% in PvP. We targeted perks that can either activate out of combat with a single button press, or those that were returning amounts of ability energy that were significant out of band. So, Whisper of Shards, which is shattering stasis crystals to give you grenade energy back. A lot of the Storm, this is interesting because Stormcaller's sort of identity is like ability regeneration. So it's Arc Web, Rising Storm, which is its range melee, and the Iconic Traces, which is the little things that come back towards you.
Yeah.
And Electrostatic Surge. You rift charges fast when allies are near. They're all obviously getting hit with roughly reduced by 50% PvP. Aftershocks for the Striker Titan, Inertia Override for Striker Titan as well. Benevolent Dawn for the Warlock. I think, is that your, you get super back?
3, right?
You get, you get a, I don't know if it's just Rift energy or overall, I'm pretty sure it's just
healing
Rift energy.
But grenade, melee, and Rift, grenade, melee, and Rift energy back, right. Practice makes perfect for the Gunslinger and Dark Matter for the Voidwalker Warlock. So less.
Is practice makes perfect the one-shot throwing knife?
Enter trace with each precision hit, reducing the cooldown of your super.
Oh, okay.
Precision shot hits, yeah.
Precision shots, yeah.
Yeah. Dark Matter's avoidability, final blows, restore health, and melee energy, ability energy, and grenade energy. So
yeah, so they're getting their ability energy regeneration reduced by roughly 50%, but like, yeah, the Stormcaller Warlock, a lot of their stuff is getting their abilities back. They're still going to get their abilities back faster than other people. They're just kind of bringing it all down, right? Or bringing it all up, increasing the cooldown of everything.
Yeah. Subclass in super perks. These perks scale down energy returns as you get kills in your super, i.e. the first kill while in super returns more super energy than the third kill. These perks often result in supers being able to roam the map for much longer than is healthy for the game, and means that a victim can frequently die in an active super, respawn on the other side of the map, and be killed again by the same super. That's never happened.
Never.
Never.
We've rescaled this energy refund decay more aggressively in PvP, so the minimum energy refund is reached roughly twice as quickly. No change has been made to refund decay against PvE combatants. So Dawnblade Warlock and Striker Titan.
Yep, that's the bottom.
Yep.
It can last forever.
Yeah, that Striker, I feel like I've gotten killed like 3 times in the same super with that one sometimes.
You get killed in the next match.
That thing is so rough. No one was using bottom 2 Dawnblade Warlock, so that one didn't seem to hurt as much in PvP when I played. But are you a protesting?
It's all I've played since I've been forced to be a Warlock since the beginning of the season. I haven't even touched a single other subclass.
Forced to be a Warlock.
Forced.
Yeah, the trample
exotic
one is
armor.
Yeah, the trample one is the most obnoxious by far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exotic armors also, obviously they're looking at that too. Each exotic below had a custom tuning pass based on the ability energy they return in PvP. Frosties no longer stacks multiplicatively in PvP with other regeneration buffs. Now additive scalar. Go crazy math kids.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, I understand in general what it means, but how it functionally plays out, I don't know.
Whip out the old calculus.
Yeah, hold on. Heart of Inmost Light. Ability energy regeneration scalars reduced by 50% in PvP. Rework. So activating multiple abilities will now reliably result in multiple empowered stacks. Stacking behavior was previously a bug, but it seemed like a good opportunity to promote it to a feature.
It's not a bug, it's a feature is coming to life.
A bug is actually a feature. Got him.
It is.
It's interesting.
Controverse holds. Duration of the grenade regeneration buff is no longer random between 1 and 4 seconds. It is now fixed duration of 1.75 seconds. It's interesting. A lot of this stuff that was random before, they're starting to really just get rid of this idea of a random amount of energy or whatever and make it, this is how much you get. So I guess it helps with building.
Yeah.
Reduces some of that guesswork.
That feels really good for like PvE too, because like a couple seasons ago, I was playing a lot of Controversial Warlock in PvE, and like, am I gonna get a lot of my grenade back, or am I gonna get none of it back? Like, just always felt terrible. So, like, I think that could potentially help a lot in PvE specifically. I don't know if it's gonna do a whole lot in PvP, but like, the fact that you kind of like know what you're buying is like, I think it's gonna help.
That's better. Yeah,
something like that a lot.
Yeah. So you also have the reduced grenade energy regeneration scalar by 50% in PvP. The previous average duration drew waiting was 1.71 seconds, with a 1 second duration being a most common. So this should improve the exotic's consistency across the game with a lower return PvP. Basically what you just said.
Yep, I like that.
Doom Fang Pauldrons reduce super energy gain on activation when an opposing player is killed by a void melee by 50%. No change PvE.
Okay.
No need to panic. Shinobi's Vow reduced grenade energy gain on hits versus players by 66%, 2/3. No change in PvE.
I'm actually very okay with this because if you've played against a team of Shinobu's Vow hunters, they're just lobbing grenades at you constantly. And you could get like your whole grenade back if all of the grenade hits one person.
I vaguely remember like way back in D1, I think it was in year 3, like Shinobu's hunters being like a really, really, really annoying problem.
Yep.
Which is you would play like 3 Shinobu's Vow hunters and like you could never touch them because they just threw grenades at you and then ran away the entire time.
Yep.
Got him. Crown of Tempest. Grenade melee super energy regeneration scalar buff duration reduced from 7 seconds to 4 seconds PvP. I feel like that was just a blender of words which I didn't really take in. Hope that made sense. No change in PvE. The Stag reduced class ability energy refund on shield break by 50% in PvP. No change.
Good.
PvE.
Okay. Cool.
Stag, rest in pieces. Armor mods. Look, if an armor mod returns energy to you in some way, it's probably
it's getting reduced by 50%.
50% PvP.
Yeah. That's
melee kickstart, grenade kickstart, which are all, I'm pretty sure they're just, if you use your melee, get a bunch back. If you use your grenade, get a bunch back.
Yeah.
Utility kickstart, use class ability, get a bunch back. Perpetuation, reduce color. That's a reduced class ability cooldown when using class ability. All right. Yeah. Bolstering detonation, focusing strike, bomber, outreach, dynamo, distribution, momentum transfer, impact induction. I think rule of thumb, if it gave you energy back.
Yeah. Rule of thumb is it didn't give you energy in PvP. It's getting cut in some kind of way to fit with their new system. Otherwise, it would be broken and make no sense.
Right. Right. I guess I wonder what's going to happen. Like, is it going to be worth to put these mods on now?
I think so. They're just across the board. They're upping the time that everything recharges. So I think it's probably still going to be worth it to spec into these. You just might want to spec like super hard with grenade kickstart instead of just adding 1, right? And you'd want tier 10 plus discipline plus grenade kickstart plus all these things to like really spec into.
Yeah. Is it going to make it more valuable because everyone's been bumped down, so give that advantage? Or because if it's not quite enough, you might feel like you're wasting a mod slot.
To that point though, these are all class item mods, right? And I can't really think of like many other class item mods that you would like really want to use in place of these.
The kickstart ones are on
your arms, yeah.
Oh, is it?
Stasis arms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, those are newer ones, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, the Stasis ones, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they want you to go down a path. They don't want you to spread it out and be like getting multiple things going at once. They want you to basically spec into one pathway. Like if you want to get your grenades back all the time, that they want you to build towards that, and you're going to sacrifice the other abilities for it.
Yeah.
Which I'm like 80% cool with that for PvP. There is a bit of me that's like, I like the, the variety that happens, but it ends up being too spammy when you're playing against it. So that's why
seems what it seems like they're doing, right? It's just everything's gonna pretty much be the same as each other with some adjustments, but it's all just coming down a notch.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy with.
I saw someone just write a comment about powerful friends and Radiant Light. I still feel like they need to just not be there because you always feel like they're just too big of a stat boost to.
They are.
It's like
not have them.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the void rework and it's like stasis, you get a bunch of stats from. Well, I'm assuming in the void rework you're going to get a bunch of stats like you get from stasis just from having certain fragments on or aspects on. So
yeah,
it'd be nice if you're having to spec in stuff to not feel obligated to have radiant light on and powerful friends.
Because it's like if something's so strong that every single person is using it, then they have to balance the game around the fact that every single person is using it. And if they balance the game around the fact that every single person is using it, then you are at such a severe disadvantage for not using it, which hurts that customizability a lot.
Yeah. Nice to see that. Right.
Would you like me to take over? Do you want to do stasis crystals and then I'll start with the...
Sure, because I'm a hunter and I've been... Actually, I haven't really been shitter diving recently, but I was for a little bit. When we really wanted to win trials, I switched to it.
I can take one of them too if you guys want to break.
How much do you like Hunter Revenant? You want to see it go? Go on. Deliver the final blow.
Hit us with the stasis crystals.
Hit it. So it's starting at dang, this is long.
Right. So it's Hefty or Mike. I'm Eric.
There you go.
Hi, Eric.
In case you haven't caught on yet, the list of ability changes we are making in the 30th anniversary is massive. We've touched nearly every ability in the game in some small way. We won't go over the full patch notes because it's mind-numbingly long, but let's take a look at some of the more provocative balance changes. So stasis crystals is the first section. Stasis crystals do a lot on top of freezing players when they're created. They also block line of sight, block movement, and act as explosive barrels. It's all a bit too much for PvP. With this release, stasis crystals will now slow players instead of freezing them, and they'll do much less damage to players when they detonate. As far as PvE is concerned, stasis crystals will still freeze combatants, and we've increased stasis crystal detonation damage versus PvE combatants. Looking at the numbers, it was almost always better to shoot directly at a combatant instead of at a crystal near a combatant. This change should help crystals better outlive their explosive barrel dreams.
I'm so happy about that change because I hardly ever used crystals for that reason because I was like, I might as well just shoot the enemies instead of dealing with detonating them. So I hope that's significant. I hope you really feel it in PvE. So you're like, yeah, I just want to blow up all the stasis crystals all the time.
Because like we have some explosive barrels in PvE already, like the Cabal canisters, the falling canisters, or the Scorn ones rather, I think. So like if these function as like mobile versions of those that you can stick wherever you want, like that'll really spice things up, I think.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
So stasis crystals. While forming, stasis crystals now slow nearby players instead of freezing them. They still freeze PvE combatants while forming. Increase slow/freeze radius while forming from 1.75 meters to 2.6. Reduce crystal detonation damage versus players by about 55%. Increase crystal detonation versus PvE combatants by about 60%. And increased crystal detonation radius from 6 meters to 8 meters.
60% increase on PvE. It was very nice.
It's a big boost.
Yeah, so now in PvP, if someone throws a crystal glacial grenade at you, you'll just get slowed. So you have a chance to actually get out of it instead of having that moment where you're like, well, I'm just dead.
Yeah, you get hit with it.
And you can theoretically, too, you can fight back now.
Yeah.
Because like a huge issue with getting frozen is like they get the first bolt on you, you kind of automatically lose the gunfight unless they miss. So I think now with stasis, if you do get caught in stasis and you don't feel like you can retreat in time, you have an option to fight back now, and
you could chuck a grenade, you could melee.
What happens if it's right on them? If they're not going to get frozen, because normally they're sort of frozen in the crystal almost. They're just going to like slowly be walking out of the crystal.
Yeah.
Or would it?
I guess unless they're entombed in the crystal. Yes. If you use the one fragment thingy that causes the big circle, right, instead of just the line, then
Touch of Winter.
Yeah, you could probably trap them in there still. They'd have to jump. Well, they can't jump if they're slowed. So yeah, I guess you'd now have to use that and trap them in.
Don't just make them better instantly. Come on, what's wrong with you? Oh god.
You just put them in the tube. Now you will be trapped in there, but they have to hit that with you in the middle.
Yeah, it sounds like, and also I think they said that you can kill them if they get damage from maybe all of your crystals exploding, but
I think it's how the proximity. If they're close enough, then
yeah, you might still get a kill off it, but I imagine you're gonna need a follow-up shot or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, I definitely don't ever see a day where people complain about Stasis being too weak in PvP. So I think it'll.
I've seen people complain about Titan Stasis being too weak.
It's true.
No, that's actually true. I retract my statement.
Well, I guess now you could jump to shatter it and maybe try and get a shotgun shut off before you dive on it or something. Unless they're entombed. If they're entombed, you got them.
Mm-hmm.
Entombed.
You just got to go for the
good word.
Ice tombs.
Yeah.
Ice tomb.
Yeah, I just feel like you're gonna have such a better chance to fight back with not being frozen. So
right,
you're gonna have so many more options, like whether or not you got, a shotgun on you, or like I said, a grenade, melee that you can chuck at any moment. So
I feel like it's gonna be more of a tool now if you can separate someone from their team and slow them at the same time. It's not gonna necessarily be shatter dive. Like you might just be throwing the nades to, hey, it's gonna put up a wall. It's gonna single out this person, slow them, and they're not gonna have maybe support from their teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And you team shot them.
Yeah, I mean, using it as like tactics to just block off sections would be more appropriate at that point, right? As opposed to
and that's what it's actually great for in trials too. Like it's actually got a lot of utility.
I've found myself using it in that fashion a lot, where like
for
if someone, if someone kind of hurt, like gets the jump on me in a gunfight and I need to run away, like, and I think that's kind of like what it was intended for originally. Like I don't think it was intended to just like constantly freeze people. At least the Glacial grenade. Like I think you're going to see a lot more people kind of using it to like get in your way while they escape and regen and
defensive mechanisms for it.
I think you'll see Stasis used a lot more in ways that don't feel nearly as oppressive.
Yep. Yeah,
that's good.
Ways that don't make you go, God, this crap again.
Right.
At the very least, you're not going to see like, when it's 3 versus 1 and then a shatter dive comes in and wipes out, 2 people instantly. Like, okay,
yeah, you're like, let's push. He's low. Stop him getting the res. Oh, we're all dead.
yeah.
So next up is Hunter, which I'm a Hunter main, so
I'm a Hunter. We're all Hunter mains. Nice. Well, Mylan is a recent Hunter main. I don't know what happened.
That's okay. We'll accept all.
I've gone through all of them.
Welcome to the church. Dodge. In order to meet our goal of less ability spam in the Crucible, we're reducing how often hunters can dodge. Gambler's Dodge is getting hit the hardest here because it can completely circumvent melee ability cooldown times. It also completely changes the hunter's silhouette in PvP, making it very powerful. In addition, hunter dodges will no longer break projectile tracking, meaning it's less of a get-out-of-jail-free card when a tracking rocket or another slow-moving projectile is flying toward you.
Before we get into the specifics, I know a lot of people are going to go, oh, does this break aim assist? Because I saw that everywhere on Twitter, and Kevin did indeed say that it just breaks projectile tracking. Aim assist is a completely different system. So it will still break aim assist.
So on top of, so the hunter dodge no longer breaks projectile tracking, like it already said. The marksman dodge at tier 10 mobility, the cooldown is going from 11 seconds to 14 seconds. And the base cooldown is still 29 seconds, which is tier 3. And then the gambler's dodge, the one that gives you your melee back, so marksman dodge reloads your weapons, and it's like the tiny one where you do like a little twirl. Gambler's dodge, the roll that gives you your melee back. Tier 10 mobility cooldown increase from 11 seconds to 18 seconds, so 7-second bump. And a base cooldown duration from 29 seconds to 38 seconds. So Gambler's dodge got hit pretty hard.
It did get hit pretty hard, yeah. It's if you have tier 10, you're gonna have a 4-second increase over someone using marksman's dodge.
And I kind of get it, because
it does circumvent everything, because you can just...
Yeah, it's so hard to balance the melee cooldowns with this in mind, because then you fall into the trap of, well, if we balance the melee cooldowns around Gambler's dodge, then you have to use Gambler's Dodge, otherwise the melee cooldowns are going to feel terrible. And if we don't do it, then they're going to feel OP with Gambler's Dodge.
Yeah.
I think a rough side effect of this is I think, at least the way I use Gambler's Dodge in PvP when I play is, I don't think I've ever used Gambler's Dodge because I wanted a melee. Anytime I ever use it, it's strictly a movement ability. So I think...
Well, I mean, the times that I use it is like, if there's a wall between you and you're close enough though, and you can get your free melee back, I mean, that's going to be still really helpful.
Right.
Considering...
I sometimes used it as like a kind of scouting move sometimes, where it's like I see someone on the radar, but I don't know exactly how close they are. But if I dodge and get my melee back, then I know that they're super close.
Oh.
Sometimes. But I mean, you could use the double dodge chest piece now. Maybe more people will now think that that is worth using
Mm-hmm.
to have 2 Gambler's Dodges.
Yeah, for
I
me,
get it. I'll say I get it.
Play out. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, for
get
me, I ended up using Gambler's Dodge with the melee thing in PvE almost exclusively. Like, I wouldn't try to do that in PvP because I just wouldn't be thinking that. I'm using, like you said, I'm using it more as like a tactic to dodge or evade or something like that, as opposed to get a melee back. So I feel like this hurts the PvE side for me more than anything. Oh, well, I mean,
too.
Yeah. The dodge obviously is very effective in PvP, and I also like to use Marksman's Dodge quite a bit, or just, you know, Dragon Shadow or something like that to refill all my guns right away. But yeah, I definitely feel this more in PvE.
Me too, because like I said, I'm a PvE main, and I love Omnioculus in PvE a ton.
Yeah.
And like this puts a big dent into the rotation that you have in terms of like originally you would go smoke and then dodge instantly, and then you would smoke again because the smoke lasts about like 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Yep.
And your Gambler's Dodge at tier 10 was 11 seconds, like it said. So you could get a Gambler's Dodge off while you were in that second smoke if you used it immediately after you used the first one, and it really helps you keep that rotation up. But now you won't be able to use your second Gambler's Dodge until your third smoke if you're doing something. Like, that's obviously very specific, but it's like the only thing I play in the game, so it definitely hurts in PvE.
Oh, when you're doing solo flawless stuff, it's pretty much the combo you rely on. Is it just constant
I would say in PvP, the number one time I would use my Gambler's Dodge probably was if I was using a sniper. I would, and I knew that there was an enemy sniper peeking the lane, I would slide around the corner, try and get a shot off, and then instantly dodge backwards to try and minimize the time that they had to fire back at me. So I think it's going to really hurt for those who were moving it as like using it as a movement ability, because I don't think anyone felt like it was too strong in that regard. But at the same time, like, I understand that it does need to be adjusted considering the new melee system if they want to have an easier time balancing the melee.
This is across the board, right? This is not just PvE changes. This is
right.
Just
it's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
And I think they did that.
I'm wondering
why.
Well, I think it's because it ties to cooldown for your utility. You know, so like they can adjust damage for things, but adjusting cooldown depending on the mode you're in, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm also wondering too, like, and this is a toss-up, but like maybe they just think it wouldn't, or maybe they thought it wouldn't feel like that hard of a hit in PvE.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe they weren't.
Maybe they also don't like
I'm not
that.
sure.
Maybe they don't like the reliance of going invisible in PvE for those top-tier challenges.
The thing is, it's hard with PvE because the whole balance, the reason why PvP and PvE balance is you want to feel like you have this crazy identity in PvE. Like, as a hunter, you want to feel like you're essentially invisible 90% of the time. Like, that's its identity. Whereas when you get to PvP, you don't really want people invisible for 90% of the time, which is the issue.
Although saying that, there is a buff later on with Invis.
There is. But yeah, because the PvE enemies never get their feelings hurt if you use something OP against them.
Yeah.
The PvP enemies, other people, don't appreciate it too much.
Yeah.
And so a good point.
Yeah, we'll see.
So yeah, but yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right, Watts. So with Revenant Hunter, you guessed it, the Stasis Crystal changes detailed earlier mean that the Hunter's Revenant's Shatter Dive will now almost never kill a full health guardian. Shatter Dive may still kill if the hunter is using Whisper of Fissures, Touch of Winter, and if the target is in the very center of all 6 crystals, aka entombed.
Yes. Entombed.
But that has been incredibly rare in our playtesting. So
gotta get good, gamers. You gotta put them in the tomb.
If you do entomb them, Shatter Dive is back on the menu. I think we can all agree that Shatter Dive was too powerful. We tried a number of fixes over the past few releases, but the truth is that as long as Stasis Crystals froze players and Shatter Dive shattered players, it was going to be too good. But it's not all rain clouds and puddles for Shatter Dive hunters. The increase in Stasis Crystal damage versus PvE combatants makes Shatter Dive a great choice in PvE. On top of that, we're increasing Shatter Dive damage versus frozen combatants by 100%.
I like that. Shatter Dive in PvE is really fun. It's just a really fun thing to do.
Really good.
Like you were saying about like basically having explosive barrels, like you're gonna have like very explosive barrels now.
Yeah.
I want to see a YouTube video now of like a team of 6 Shatter Dive hunters like killing a raid boss with just a bunch of grenades and Shatter Dive.
You almost want like a fuse of
so like
a wall, like, and then like a big cluster of right at the boss.
That would be great to see. I want to see that.
So Shatter Dive is much less lethal versus players due to Stasis Crystal damage, or Stasis Crystal changes. Much more lethal versus combatants due to Stasis Crystal changes, and increased shatter damage versus frozen PvE combatants by 100%. And then the Grim Harvest aspect is now increased fragment slots from 2 to 3. And was Grim Harvest where if you dodged, you slow them?
Mylan, you looked this up, right? You're the local ability expert.
It's when you kill them.
Is it the?
They leave like the thing that you can pick up, right?
Oh, little crystal shards. Is that what it is? Where that gives you your melee back?
Hunters,
melee crystals.
Yes.
Great stasis shards. Yes.
It's melee crystals.
Yeah, slowed or frozen targets.
Yes, and then they drop the little thing when they die, and you
stasis shard.
That's nice.
Okay, so you get an extra fragment slot there, so that's cool. Top tree Arc Strider. This change to the combination blow melee was made possible by our variable ability cooldown system. Previously, top tree Arc Striders were basically required to use Gambler's Dodge with this tree. We hope this change will make this ability viable, even if you're using Marksman's Dodge. So they changed combination blow and reduced the base cooldown duration from 96 seconds to 15 seconds.
I saw this and I was like, well, so hello, I'm an Arc Strider. How are you?
And that's base cooldown. That's tier 3. So like
that's crazy.
At tier 10, is that like 5 seconds? Maybe.
Just go around slapping everyone. You don't need to dodge anymore. Just go around and slap everyone.
What's it called? Liar's Handshake?
Liar's Handshake.
Yeah.
Might not even like need to do the Gambler's Dodge in the combo anymore. You might just be able to just run around and
15 seconds is crazy. The base cooldown being 15.
That's nuts.
15 seconds. The base cooldown. It's not even
Arc Striders be hello. I'm a recovering Titan. Punchy punch.
So I have my one-shot grenade and my slaps ready to go.
Very severe case of identity theft. Speaking of Titans, which I saw some stuff about this one on Twitter, which is going to be interesting to see. But shoulder charges.
Did we skip
our efforts?
We missed bottom tree Night Stalker.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
Your favorite, the most important.
No, well, I already.
I think this change is just in PvP though, right? Because didn't they say so I know that it's confusing because in the TWAB they like specifically said all ability regeneration is unchanged for PvE, but then in some parts they're like no change in PvE and they specify that.
You're right.
So it's very confusing.
So it says the Vanish and Smoke melee has low damage output but high utility. Our data shows that this subclass tree is struggling in PvP, so we've decided to increase how often Pathfinder hunters can go invisible. So the Vanish of Smoke melee, they reduced the base cooldown from 96 seconds to 75 seconds.
Unplayable. Yeah, the last one was 15 seconds.
Yeah, the thing is, they're not making a specific delineation between PvP and PvE in there. They're just saying they struggled in PvP, but it sounds like they're globally, it reducing it.
It does, because in the section above with the abilities, they said for every ability, like no change in PvE, no change in PvE, no change in PvE under every like bullet point. So
yeah,
I'm thinking I'm hoping it's global, not thinking it's global. Like I'm praying it is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will not be very good at the game anymore.
Let's see, because and here it says with the 30th anniversary, we've taken a pass at a significant number of these elements across subclass perks, armor mods, and exotic armor pieces. So, subclass perks, armor mods, and exotic armor pieces are tuned PvP energy regeneration separately from their base PvE values, which we're not changing. So it would be helpful if they just put no change in PvP or no change in PvE, or this is for both on every bullet point, so it's less confusing.
True.
Yeah,
I would appreciate it.
I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So with Titans, shoulder charges, in our effort to put the emphasis back on gunplay in the Crucible, we've decided to reduce the number of abilities that can one-shot a full health Guardian. As such, the Titan's 3 shoulder charges are no longer one-shot abilities in PvP.
And this is where people were like, because they said we've reduced the number of abilities that can one-shot Guardians, but then above they were like, Flux grenades.
Yeah. Because, I'll finish the paragraph, but to balance this out, we've made the shoulder charges quicker to activate, easier to hit with, and travel farther. We've also increased their damage in PvE. In our experience, they're still powerful in PvP in combination with short-range weapons and when used as a movement tool. We wanted to curb shoulder charges' potency now that we've tuned down shotguns as their current counter. We'll be monitoring the data and feedback and adjusting accordingly. And so, I've always felt shoulder charge, like, it is frustrating to get one-shot by an ability, but with as low of a TTK as Destiny has, and considering it is a melee ability, it didn't ever feel like that ridiculous.
I can't say like it was something I was super complaining about often.
Yeah.
Like constantly getting hit by, but there was a time in Destiny where it was, but it didn't really feel like it at the moment, to be honest.
To that point though, like the last line where it says we'll be monitoring the data and feedback, like I think if 0 people are using it now, like I think they might.
I wonder how it's going to be now as a movement tool. Like I think
because you travel further.
Lining. Yeah.
Seems like it's going to be good for that.
Yeah. So and then this next line is I think important for it. So like it says it no longer one-shots players, but the sprint activation time reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1.25 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's only a quarter of a second difference, and because like when I first read that, I was like, oh, if you use it as like a movement tool, maybe like Titans have a sort of like Icarus dash or something like that now. But I don't think it's enough of a sprint activation time reduction to like really be like it's still a while to activate. So yeah, but they increased the range from 5.5 meters to 6.8 meters, so about a 20-ish% increase. Targeting cone width increased by about 10%, and increased damage versus PvE combatants by 25%.
Wait, so you reckon Peregrine Greaves is going to come back? That was a one shot, right?
So this is the thing. Peregrine Greaves will make your shoulder charge one shot. So that's why I kind of go into the thought of they're changing things to force you to spec into wanting to do a thing. And that feels like this change, right? Where it's like if you want a one shot shoulder charging people in Crucible is your jam, you're going to have to wear Peregrine Greaves and spec into it now. But if you don't, I think it'll be a really good movement tool to like get into sniper lanes so you can like get across. I think it's going to be good for that.
Yeah, I think the sprint activation time reduction and the increased range, both those alone make it was already a good movement tool, but like now I think it's going to be even better.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd want to use it most of the time.
I was just going to say with the cones, remember how we had Chris on? He's like, 0.5% in, I know he's talking about weapons, like 0.5% for like cones is like huge. I'm like 10% targeting cone. Holy, that'll be on the other side of the map. 90 degrees.
It's gonna do a 90-degree turn immediately now.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear the word cones, my brain short circuits.
I mean, I feel like at some point it's been that bad before, where it will literally grab someone to the right.
Yeah.
When you like in D1.
It's probably a hard thing to balance when it is a one-shot kill. Maybe they can, like, they've put some more strength in other places with shoulder charge.
Right.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I know it's obviously, I totally understand people being like, how can someone throw a grenade and get a one-shot kill? But I have to be in their face in melee range, and I can't get a one-shot kill. So I do understand that sentiment.
But cooldown
yeah, they
time,
could,
right?
they could be like just kind of reinventing the identity of the ability, where it's like, okay, well, this isn't really supposed to be used to kill people. It's supposed to be used as a gap closer, or maybe a disengage, or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that too. The seismic strike, which is the thunder crash one, right? The diagonal one. Reduced AoE damage from 90 to 40. Now blinds enemies in the area on hit, and increase the base cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds.
The blind sounds fun.
Yeah, it does sound fun.
You could go into a big group of people and blind them all.
And then you'll see them like kind of walking around in circles trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that could actually be pretty fun.
It's pretty big drop in damage.
Shield bash, which is the void shoulder charge, reduced AoE damage from 90 to 40, increased the base cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds as well.
You just got wrecked without any of the cool fun stuff of a seismic strike.
Yeah. And then the hammer strike, which is the solar one, reduced direct impact damage from 170 to 120, and increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Does a lot of damage.
Yeah. Still not nerfed. Like, I mean, 120 is still not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
120 is not bad. It also burns, right? So that'd be burning plus the 120 damage.
With it not being one-hit kills in some of these, like I remember in was it the first year of D2, they did one-hit kill, right? Yeah. So like it created a situation where you basically never wanted to go into combat with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And especially with people who are going to have special weapons like a shotgun or a fusion rifle. Like you're almost always going to die against someone who's competent to know that you're about to be shoulder charged. And if you're still up, then, or if you haven't been shot at all to take some damage to die from the shoulder charge, then like the person shoulder charging is most likely going to die from these instances. So I think it's,
because you can shoot at them while they're running at you to shoulder charge. They can't shoot back.
And then you can melee too.
To shoot back, they have to stop their sprint.
Yeah.
And then no more shoulder charge. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. So it might just go back to that where people just use it as a movement ability.
Yeah, I think you're rarely going to see people actually shoulder charge people intentionally anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to be like
might
accidental.
Be an accident.
Yeah. Or you're going to see it just in
that
PvE,
massive cone's going to be you're going to accidentally
like, no, I was trying to run away, but it made me do a 180.
Auto targeted.
You get to melee me.
Yeah. It might be the death of shoulder charge in PvP.
Yeah. So barricades, even with the rally barricade changes we made in Season of the Lost, using this ability during a firefight is still a risky proposition. We've spaced out the cooldowns of the two barricades to make the choice slightly more interesting. So Towering Barricade got a cooldown increase from 37 seconds to 40 seconds, but a base cooldown. And the base cooldown of Rally Barricade got a decrease from 37 seconds to 32 seconds.
So this doesn't mention anything about PvP versus PvE, right?
I think this is universal.
Yeah. So
it doesn't, but I'm looking at the big fat underlined bold lettered thing where they said we have tuned PvP energy regeneration separately from their base PvE values across subclass perks, armor mods, and exotic armor pieces.
Subclass perks, armor mods.
Perks,
See, would a class ability be classified differently from that?
Subclass perk?
Yeah, I think class ability is different from subclass perk.
Yeah.
Subclass perk is like top tree, middle tree, bottom tree.
Yeah.
Whereas utilities.
Yeah, this is a utility. So that's why I think like Hunter Dodge falls under the same category as well.
Yeah.
Why it's, in universal. Well.
Yeah, that is.
I feel like it's PvP only.
Yeah.
Personally, just because they really went out of their way to boldface underline PvE is not getting changed.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
You know, that definitely affects. So as a hunter, or at least when I remember, I played hunter like that. You get into the rhythm of how many seconds that is, and that is going to throw you off big time if it is different in two different modes.
Yeah, Sean has a good point that says class ability counts towards surplus, which defines it as ability energy. So
true. Yeah.
I'm wondering too, because if it is true that it is only PvP, then I wonder what the implications of that for hunters in PvE are, moving back up to like the melee dodge change and being able to circumvent those cooldowns. Because the frowny face of like playing an invis hunter, and also that would be kind of sad because that combination blow base cooldown going from 96 seconds to 15 seconds, if that's only PvP as well.
Interesting.
That kind of stinks because that sounded kind of fun to use in PvE.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, surplus. Surplus is
True.
gonna have to get changed probably.
Yeah.
Do you want to pass it along?
Sure.
You want me to take behemoths?
Behemoth?
You can have all the behemoths.
Well, I don't want that.
No, I don't want them either. That's why I passed them on.
So here it says, we agree with the general community feedback that the behemoth could use some love in PvE. We're hoping these changes to Diamond Lance make this aspect a top tier PvE pick. Shiver Strike is getting a big damage buff during the Glacial Quake Super. Whisper of Chains fragment buff here is also very spicy and should help the behemoth survivability in pinnacle PvE activities. Whisper of Chains can be used by all Stasis subclasses, but making crystals is kind of the behemoth's thing, so we're listing it here. So Diamond Lance increased fragment slots from 1 to 3. That's a big bump. Now spawns a Diamond Lance upon killing a PvE combatant with a stasis weapon, killing 3 players with stasis weapons in a single life, killing an enemy with a stasis ability, and shattering an enemy. Mylan, what's Diamond Lance?
I think it's like the spear thing, right? That everyone saw.
Oh, the thing that you pick up and throw. Right, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that no one uses. But it's so fun. It's so cool.
It was the one that people saw in the Season of the Splicer trailer, and everyone said, like, you have got to be absolutely kidding me. And then
no one used it.
I've never seen it a single time in the entire game.
I've never seen it.
Losing their minds over there, like, no, they're adding stasis spears. Like, what are they thinking? And
this is cool because you can pick up the Titan Spear too. So you could theoretically have like everyone running around with spears because you kill if you kill one PvE combatant with a stasis weapon, it spawns a Diamond Lance. If you kill an enemy with a stasis ability, if you shatter an enemy.
So like I can pick up my teammate's Titan Spear?
I think so, right? Have I not done that before? So. I think so. I think I did that.
Maybe
I think I saw it once in a public event and was like, "Oh, watch that!"
When I say I have never, I'm not exaggerating. When I said I've never seen a Diamond Lance in the entire game, not one time. I've never seen it, so I have no idea what it does.
This could be really cool with Aegis Scepter, like using that in PvE and just freaking.
There would be like 900.
Spears.
It does have an internal cooldown, unfortunately. It shouldn't. It should have a non-internal cooldown, just like your whole team run around with lances. Yeah. That sounds great.
It'd be funny if they get abilities balance, they get stasis balance, and all of a sudden is everyone running around with stasis spears to battle.
Next we have
appear in Eververse.
Shiver Strike. Increased Shiver Strike damage while in Glacial Quake by 50%. Whisper of Chains. Increased damage resistance versus PvE combatants from 25% to 40%. That's nice.
Okay.
It's when you're standing near like a frozen target or a glacial grenade. You get the big damage resistance. I like that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Bottom Tree Striker. This class is absolutely dominating PvP this season, so we're turning it down a notch.
This season.
Yeah, right?
Bottom Tree's been good for a while.
The past 10 seasons, maybe?
Yeah, they do say that the stasis nerfs that they made created a vacuum where Striker bot filled with extreme prejudice. So we have knockout. Melee lunge range and melee damage bonus now deactivates after a melee kill. Mylan, what's the lore on that?
I told you I stopped writing all these down after the
18th ability.
Yeah.
Trample. Super energy gain from Fist of Havoc light attack now decays to minimum amount over 3 PvP kills, down from 7.
Damn. 7.
And Fist of Havoc heavy slam radius reduced from 8 meters to 6 meters. This is bottom tree only. Only bottom tree.
Right.
Got it. And the frontal assault melee too.
Yep. Yes, frontal assault increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 106. Pretty decent increase.
I have felt that bottom tree strikers needed a significant nerf since like Forsaken.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled that they're finally getting it because, and to be fair, I am a hunter main, so I'm sure it's like other classes.
I can like, almost hear the angry typers on their keyboards right now.
Right,
like I can hear the. I mean, I'm sure they type like this though. It's not gentle. It's like
they punch their keyboard to type. The twit loggers are being written already, but like it's always like because I remember one day I was doing trials carries with Salta Greppo, the individual who had like the world's first vault of glass, and I would just remember he would kind of like, it was on Burnout that very first week of this season, and he would just kind of like trail off to the right with his shotgun, and then I would just see in the kill feed him like punch 3 people right away, and I was like, oh, that's super cool. Did you one shot all of them? And he was like, yep. And I was like, cool. Very fun. And I'm thank God that I realized that this was needed. Much.
In the chat, we have Titan saying, I'm a Titan. Bottom tree striker deserved it. I'm Titan. This was expected. I'm a striker main. This was expected.
Very
good job, gamers.
Long time.
They went down much more gracefully than
hunters.
The hunters will.
Oh yeah, hunters whine and complain.
You took my shatter dive. Titans like,
don't compliment them. Don't compliment them.
Yeah, sorry.
Next we have Warlocks. Uncharged melee. So Warlocks, we have had a delay in their melee follow-up for a long time, and they kind of circumvented it where they're like, hey, well, you have really long range melees that are powerful. So they are removing the 1 meter range extension Warlocks receive, but you will be able to punch at the same speed as everyone else.
So I had no idea that there was a different cadence to Warlock slaps versus melees from the other classes.
Neither did I.
And I was getting pretty frustrated in PvP, being like, why the hell can't I follow up with the slap? God damn it.
You can't.
It's pissing me off. And turns out it was in the game for a reason.
I had no idea it was a thing either.
Yeah, I was like, why am I losing these slap fights? This is ridiculous.
We read this TWAB together, Tafty. We read it. What are you doing?
Sounds like a
they said that?
Weird thing to have in the game in the first place.
Yeah, I don't remember them ever mentioning that.
Something as basic as a melee, like you think.
Was it just that? Like, it must be the animation. Is that why?
It's because they wanted to. Well, they said they wanted to differentiate it, where like these melees are more powerful,
and they had like those more super long range.
Yeah, which was annoying to begin with, the whole range thing.
Well, they now have the same melee range as Hunter and Titan, and they reduced suppression time after melee, so now you can melee back to back, same speed as Titan and Hunter.
Yeah. Yay.
There you go. You can now win slap fights straight up.
Yeah. Awesome.
Slappers only.
Middle Tree Voidwalker. In our effort to do away with one-shot abilities that are frustrating to be hit by, Handheld Supernova is also getting the shoulder charge treatment. That's right. Handheld Supernova will no longer one-shot in PvP.
Good.
To compensate, it now travels further and pushes enemies back. We also increased the damage of handheld Supernova and Nova Warp versus champion and boss combatants. We had increased their damage in Season of the Lost, but it felt like they could get even more juice. So, here's what is happening. Reduced damage versus players. Now deals 150 damage max. Increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%. Increased projectile range from 12 meters to 14 meters. And now pushes targets away from the Warlock on detonation. So I know people are upset about losing the one shot because handheld Supernova can also kill you, which I would like some clarification on. Like, can handheld Supernova still kill you?
Can go off in your hands.
Yeah, can it explode you?
Every time I read no longer one shot in PvP in this TWAB, I can hear like Flux Grenade like laughing 8 miles.
Yeah, I know, right? It's I actually think this might be kind of cool. I was watching Fallout go through the TWAB, which he does every Thursday, and him and Cool Guy were saying it could actually be interesting that it pushes them away. Because say you have like a shatter with kill clip, and you do handheld Supernova, push them away, do 150 damage max, and then finish them off with shatter, free kill clip, and then you can go on a killing spree. So it's like keeping them at a distance to then use your primary weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could end up working pretty well. Get them away from you.
Yeah, in those specific cases, for sure. I think that sounds like what they want you to do with these abilities. They want you to prime someone and then finish them off with your primary or something like that.
Yeah, I wonder how like large the knockback 2 is, because if it's pretty significant, like this could be really strong to counter melee roaming supers, like
true,
like Spectral and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like kind of hold it as they come around the corner, launch it at their face, and then like you said, pull out your Shieras, and then if it's a significant knockback, like you can legitimately consistently win 1v1s if you play it properly.
If you got a DMT Vorpal, we only need an extra shot most of the time to get the kill.
Yeah, I pretend like DMT doesn't exist, and I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It can also, if people are being super shotgun heavy, you can charge it as they're coming around the corner and push them back, and then finish them off with your primary. It could be cool. It could be used in a lot of cool cases.
Pushes them out of melee range and all that. Yeah.
This actually makes me more interested in using handheld Supernova than right now.
Interesting.
It's just more. There's more to it, Instead of just I whole thing, I kill you in one shot. It's like I get to pick weapons based on handheld Supernova. I can play a certain way based on it.
Sound a little bitter there, once.
It's interesting. Bitter?
I hold this one button, then you instantly die.
Oh, I don't die to handheld Supernova, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't really see many people.
Well, you don't see it too often now. It's been out of rotation for a while, right?
Yeah.
I think like the Forsaken patch is the only time it's really been like the best option.
Yeah.
Well, Nova Warp is also getting increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Shade the Binder. Yes, Smiley?
Just agreeing. Good.
Yep. Fair dinkum.
Yeah.
That's a fair dink amount of 10. Now, don't you start making me as a Australian
I was about to say
use Australian words incorrectly. Okay?
Yeah, you said a fair dink about a 10. That
I was like,
I've been criticized multiple times by using that exact phrasing.
Where do you think it came from?
I'm impressed that we made it this far into the TWAB without this issue coming up.
It's true. Shadebinder, also known as the budgie smuggler of the Warlock subclasses. Definitely. 100%.
100%. Yeah.
We feel the Shadebinder's in a pretty good place with a couple of exceptions. One, Winter's Wrath is still the best super for shutting down other supers, and it's not even close. Winter's Wrath must now freeze and shatter other supers twice to kill them. As a general rule, roaming supers shouldn't be able to one-shot other supers. 2, the Penumbral Blast melee is too difficult to land against PvE combatants. When we made the ability harder to land in PvP, it had a negative effect on the PvE experience. We've increased the proximity detonation radius against PvE combatants to make it easier to land. So all 3 stasis grenades now have different cooldown times. So we made a change to Bleak Watcher to avoid a situation where it was always best to use the grenade with the shortest cooldown time. This results in an overall cooldown increase for Bleak Watcher, which fits its incredibly high power output. So, Winter's Wrath, reduced shatter pulse damage versus enemy supers. Must now generally freeze and shatter all supers twice to eliminate them.
Generally? I'm guessing.
Generally. There's probably one. It's
Golden Gun.
Golden Gun.
Yeah.
Golden Gun. Yep. Your squishy monster. Penumbral Blast, increased proximity detonation radius versus PvE combatants by 100%. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
And Bleak Watcher, while Bleak Watcher is equipped, all stasis grenades charge at Glacial grenade rate.
So I don't know what your experience with Shadebinder is, but I still feel like I get cross-mapped and frozen by it, and then shattered.
Yeah.
So I'm confused with it,
like
saying it's a pretty good place, because I feel like as soon as you hear that, you're like, okay, I'm dead, before you even see it.
Yeah, I run from it.
Those bolts, like,
they track.
They're like truth rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
I was
sucks
surprised
too,
that didn't.
because no matter how far away you are from it, if it hits you, you're dead.
Yeah. That's been my experience with it.
If you get frozen, the explosion radius, like the damage is not based on range. So like if you're in the radius of it, you're dead, and it's pretty far.
Yeah.
So I don't know about that. The thing that's interesting to me here is the note of this is where we've seen them touch on like a grenade variant having cooldowns.
Yes.
Like where they've touched on the cooldown of a grenade variant because it's not one of the primary grenades that you can select. And so I'm wondering if tying back into like the handheld supernova, did it say anything about handheld supernova grenade charge rate?
No, it didn't. It didn't say anything.
So with the light subclasses, stuff like handheld supernova and the healing grenade, those come from perks, like subclass tree perks. Whereas Bleak Watcher comes from, is it an aspect or a fragment? I never know the difference between the two.
I don't know.
Bleak Watcher.
We'll
say, what's Bleak Watcher?
Is it aspect or fragment? I think it's
an
aspects.
Aspect or fragment. I think
pretty sure.
It has to be an aspect, right? Because because other classes don't have fragments.
It's the one in the top right.
Yep.
So aspect. So I'm wondering if, from like a back end perspective, is this grenade charge time specific to the fragments aspect that it's on, and therefore this type of thing can't be done with the healing grenades and handheld supernova, or because like that still piques my interest a lot, like grenade variants that come from subclass trees, because and I guess, well, no, it wouldn't be really fixed with the 3.0s because, would it? Would like healing grenade become an aspect, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's possible they could be revamping.
I guess
definitely possible.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're gonna put it.
The other thing too is that I'm kind of sad that they missed on this, but for anyone that does like Nightfalls or plays against a lot of champions, Bleak Watcher or just Stasis in general is super, but like Bleak Watcher is the worst offender, is super annoying for killing overloaded unstoppable champions, because when you freeze an overloaded unstoppable champion, it resets its stun and therefore turns back on its damage resistance. The saving grace is that you can instantly stun it again, but like it makes trying to kill it, and it resets. It's like if it's an overload, it resets its HP regen, and it makes that super annoying. So yeah, I'm kind of sad that that's still a problem, because I highly doubt that's intentional. But
maybe they'll fix that.
Well.
What do you guys think about Warlock Rift not getting hit at all? Because Titan Barricades have been hit, Hunted Dodge has been hit.
I was curious about that. I mean, I think overall they feel like they're in a decent spot.
What do you feel about Arc Souls being tied to Rift with like, there's so much less abilities going on, and if it's more focused on gunplay, if Warlocks have the ability to get Arc Souls pretty often, then they essentially have like a
a good point. It's a really good point. I mean, it might be one of those things where it's an outlier until they're able to hit them with the 3.0 system.
Another thing, which you were kind of mentioning earlier on too, is like I think a kind of underlying buff that Rift just got is with the new super generation changes where you can eat damage effectively for free and get super from it. So I think Rift just kind of got like a secret buff in that regard because you're allowed to eat damage and you can easily dish it back out while you're in a Rift comfortably, even if you are eating damage. So
yeah, I mean, Well of Radiance too, being able to just like tank damage and like get super energy back really quick.
And being tier 5.
I think Well is going to be busted for like just the subclass of Well of Radiance in PvP. I think is going to be incredibly busted until the next balance patch or until a hotfix.
Yeah, it is interesting that you bring up the super regeneration because that's very true. You can tank way more shots if you can keep going back in and out of the Rift. You can even tank it when you're, standing in the Rift.
Well, on top of that, it's like everybody jumps in with you. It's your whole team is getting that benefit. It's not just like
healing grenade on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's be interesting how that plays out.
That's scary. I like
you guys are Warlocks, hey?
Yeah, true.
I've always been a Warlock main. I don't know. I don't know why people are
as long as I can remember this season.
Yeah, I've always loved Warlocks. They're great.
So we'll see how that plays out. That is it of the big boy changes coming with the 30th. They do say that there will be an official patch notes, of course, and there are more changes in there. But they just gave us kind of the big ones.
That's coming for December 7th is when all that stuff is dropping. Very exciting.
Not far.
No, not far.
No, it's far at all. No.
Less than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. I've literally just looked at my calendar. Huh? 1 week, 2 week, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, that's
Wait, is it 4 weeks?
No, sorry, as in like 2 weeks and 4 days.
Yeah, 19 days, 5 right? Days.
That's right.
Yeah, it's coming up real soon. I think overall, I'm very excited about these changes. There's a few things, obviously, with the Hunter Dodge and all that kind of makes you go, how's that going to play out? But overall, I mean, this seems like major quality changes for the Sandbox and how abilities feel.
Overall, I'd say that I'm happy with it. It's, they're getting more of a focus on gunplay and just abilities being around less is nice. And I like what I
thing is, if they achieve their pillars that they keep bringing up, which is to hone in on gunplay and build crafting, like if they achieve that, whatever way they do that, it's going to make the game better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love how much risks they're taking by just saying like, you know what, we're going to mix it up in a crazy way. And you know what, if it doesn't work out, we'll keep our eye close on it. We'll tune it. But like, I think stuff like this, like, I think it's gonna like give the game such a completely fresh feel, and I think playing PvP is going to be such a different experience in the way that you utilize your tools and resources in a match. And we've kind of see them doing this with like all of the trials changes, week by week, and trying out trials labs. And like, some of them have like really not landed well, but like I'd much rather have continued attempts at innovation to strike gold than to just say like, well, let's try to get it in a pretty decent place and then we'll make tiny tweaks to,
Definitely.
like I'm all good with blowing the gates open and
it's also
really
fascinating
trying to revolutionize something.
It's fascinating them revealing like the things that were connected that they couldn't change until now with the whole 3.0 system or changes that are coming, so they can decouple those things and give them different regeneration rates. Like I think that's really fascinating. Yeah, it's cool.
And I'm hoping something like that kind of gives the community more trust in them when they maybe put a bombshell of a change on a TWAB, where in seasons past they see something that looks really scary on paper and say this is going to ruin the game, and that's so frustrating because Destiny players have felt for the last 7 years that we only get changes every 3 months. So hopefully this puts some confidence in players' minds that okay, they can try something crazy, and if it doesn't work, they have a knob that they can turn really easily now to rein it in.
Yep.
And hopefully that'll open reception to changes.
Yeah. And I also like these changes get people to want to go in PvP and try stuff out.
Yes.
So it also helps invigorate the playlist of just more people hopping in and going back, or PvE players wanting to go, I want to see what this feels like. It's always good to do these big changes because it will bring people back into playing.
Yeah, I think for a while, 6v6 or Control, regular standard Crucible, has just felt like a deluge of ability spam. Like I get in there, and then after 2 minutes, I'm like, oh my god, just this after that, and like then all the supers start popping. And I hope that these changes are like at least the beginning of getting Control or 6v6 turned around to feel. I don't know.
Less like Mayhem.
Yeah, I guess less like Mayhem, because like I don't want it balanced and I don't want it hyper competitive, because that's what Destiny 2 at launch was technically like, this 4v4 ultra balanced, incredibly focused on gunplay. It just needs to find that happy balance in somewhere in the middle, to where you can go in there and you feel like you can get into a gunfight, and then abilities matter, but they're not like the crux of everything of how you get kills, you know?
I think one of the things is a potential, not downside, but something I hope they address, is when we get to this high level of build crafting and flexibility in both your class that you pick or subclass you pick, that you sort of need a system to manage that, like a load, like okay, now I've got this really specific, I've got all my mods all spec'd into the same thing with the same fragments and aspects on them, and like, oh, I want to change something now. You're like, oh, I've got to change.
Give me 10 minutes and I'll be
I'll be with you in half an hour. Let me switch everything out. I know that they're interested in doing that, but there's no sort of like.
What if they reveal that for like Witch Queen or something?
That'd be like, so cool.
We figured
preset loadout options.
Oh
yeah,
it'd be so good.
Sockets all your mods for you, everything. It's just like, here's my PvP one, here's my PvE one.
Stop. It's too
good.
It's too exciting.
Yeah. Before we close out the TWAB, there was a few more notes on the back to now.
Yes. There's things we need to talk about with Destiny 2 leaving Game Pass.
Yeah. Should I take?
That's important. You want to take it?
I can take it. Yeah.
Okay.
So Destiny 2 leaving Xbox Game Pass, specifically the Xbox Game Pass.
Yes, not the
console
PC Game Pass. Yeah.
So confusing the way they have this stuff set up.
Oh.
So yeah. So December 8th, on December 8th, Destiny 2 and its expansions, Forsaken, Shadowkeep, and Beyond Light, will leave Xbox Game Pass on console and cloud. Both of those. Destiny 2 and current expansions will remain on Xbox Game Pass for PC. the most confusing name to say, Xbox Game Pass PC. So, yeah. Anyways,
confusing.
I'll stop complaining about that. Once Destiny 2 leaves Xbox Game Pass, players who don't own any of the expansions on the Xbox platform will lose access to campaign missions, expansion-specific activities, raids, dungeons, hunts, exo challenges, nightfall strikes, and access to Trials of Osiris. The Stasis subclass, which is Beyond Light specific, the middle tree supers for each subclass, the 10% off perk for silver purchases, and other game add-ons. Oh, not the 10%.
Losing a lot of stuff.
Wait, they got 10% off?
Yeah, if you had Game Pass, if you played on Game Pass, you got 10% off silver purchases.
Buying the Game Pass is a strategic investment to acquire more silver per dollar.
Makes your silver go an extra mile there.
I wonder why. Is this just like the contract ran out, or is this something else?
Well, let me finish this real quick. Let me finish this real quick, and then we'll talk about that. So it says items such as exotics already acquired will still be available for players who earned them. So your exotics are good. Don't have to worry about that. Previously purchased season passes will also remain active. Players who wish to continue playing Destiny 2 on Xbox should look for Destiny 2 expansion discounts that will be available soon. So apparently they're going to go on sale soon. As a reminder, the Witch Queen will not be available on console or PC Xbox Game Pass when it launches on February 22nd.
Is this them kind of splitting off from Xbox?
I think so.
Like their kind of partnership that they have going?
I'm wondering if they had, like Mylan said, I'm wondering if they have like a separate time duration contract for having it on Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass, and maybe in like a year or two from now, everything that's leaving the Xbox Game Pass will now leave the PC Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, interesting.
Maybe there's just no more room with so many Spartans on their Xbox Game Pass.
There's already enough fire teams.
They're like, all right, we got our like peak FPS game. Get out of here. We don't need it anymore. Go. We're not giving you any more money.
Get out of here. We don't need Jews.
We got Master Chief, baby.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I was thinking that they were going to continue with some Game Pass stuff, but
yeah, they did somewhat recently just brought everything to Game Pass.
Yeah. So that's
it was always like Sony was the problem child when they were trying to do crossplay and all that kind of stuff too. Like it always seemed like Xbox was or Microsoft were the I don't know easy to work with.
You know, maybe it was like maybe it's a player retention thing. Maybe they got the peak player retention that they could get out of it, and now they're not interested in renewing because they've already saturated that market. Like they're not getting a lot of influx of new players anymore.
Oh, so they threw it on Xbox, tried to grab as many, or threw it on Game Pass, try to get as many Game Pass users into the game that they could,
and then convert those to paying customers, right?
Yeah, maybe they were.
Kind of what happens with like a lot of games on Game Pass, right? Like they come on Game Pass and then they leave, like because
they have a contract.
And I guess it's I guess it's just
the
same thing where you get on Game Pass to get a higher install base. Yeah, and then after a while your contract goes away, and then maybe you decide if you want to stay on Game Pass or not.
It makes sense for live service,
right? And your new player influx from Game Pass is going to decrease dramatically after probably like a couple months.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. See, maybe Bungie has decided that they've reaped the rewards of the Game Pass, and now it's time to.
Yeah. Did it come to Game Pass exactly on the launch? So Beyond Light came out November 10th, 2020. So is it exactly that time when it came to Game Pass? I don't remember.
I don't think so. But I'm not
basically
sure.
a year.
I don't think so.
I could totally see them saying like 1 year to try out Game Pass and then go from there. You know,
obviously they're not applying it to Witch Queen, so they must think that it's not worth the money. Really?
Yeah, I think it feels like Witch Queen is going to be more akin to like Forsaken, which is, I'm sure they'd be able to capture more people wanting to buy that.
It's a good point, because I'm sure the equation was something like, okay, if we have X amount of players that play Beyond Light but don't pay for Beyond Light because they use the Game Pass, then we need them to spend X amount of money on silver for it to be worth it.
Right.
And I guess the equation just ended up not paying off.
Yeah. Well, they're probably thinking that they could just get more out, or maybe maybe they don't like the contract. Maybe they don't like the, the ecosystem that happened. Or maybe
I can call Bill real quick and ask if
I'd appreciate that.
Would be helpful. Yeah.
Well, the good news is that there are a lot of discounts currently for Xbox for Destiny stuff. So if you do want to keep everything, probably look into getting that sooner rather than later.
I think it's all like half off now, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy that because I don't own. I've been using the Game Pass for my Xbox.
Although it does say players who wish to continue playing Destiny 2 on Xbox should look for Destiny 2 expansion discounts that will be available soon. So I'm wondering if there might be a bundle coming out that's like Witch Queen plus Beyond Light plus Forsaken plus Shadowkeep for maybe.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't want anyone to skip the current sale because I don't actually know anything, but that's how that reads to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't yell at me if.
No, that's what it sounds like.
Make you miss out
some big
on the discount.
Yeah, some big discount things coming up. I mean, it would make sense, Black Friday, holidays, all that stuff.
Yeah, and they usually like to bundle all the old expansions together when they're releasing a big new one, so that because it's like.
Yeah, but like my Series X is the casual Destiny machine when I'm chilling on the couch, and now I'm gonna have to buy the expansions. Not that it's a problem.
You're doing Game Pass.
Yeah, for the Series X, I do Game Pass on there, and then I play on the PS5 and PC in my stream office. So, yeah. Well, that was quite the twab.
Yeah.
That was a massive twab.
Thick.
Can you even imagine what it's going to be like when they do the Void class rework of that twab? We have some big patch notes coming
Yeah.
Big old patch.
I'm tired and hungry.
Oh, speaking of hungry, Thanksgiving is next week, next Thursday.
True.
So the TWAB will be a light one on Wednesday.
Yep.
So keep that in mind.
Also, we'll probably be doing the show on a Wednesday. We haven't actually talked about that.
We haven't talked about it, but I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, probably Wednesday.
It's live scheduling happening
Wednesday,
right now.
Wednesday, you will see us here, not Thursday.
Well, I think we got another hour for questions, right?
I will triple uppercut you.
Briar's gonna suddenly show up and have a list of questions.
I don't have anything going on, but I think if Mylan doesn't get a hamburger, then he's going to.
Yeah, it's
out of everybody.
There you go.
Get a fair dinkum.
Using it incorrect.
Hit him with a meaty fair dinkum.
That's a meaty fair dinkum.
I'm gonna crack the shits. There you go. Crack the shits.
Yeah, take
You're
a
gonna
dump.
go poop your pants.
No, it's
nice, Mylan.
Diarrhea.
Fair dinkum.
That's a weird,
weird way of bungee smuggling.
Yep. Crack the shits. Get angry. Get annoyed at someone.
Like when you're solo playing Halo Infinite and someone's not doing the objective.
Yeah.
I say that they're giving me the unfair dinkum.
Yeah, you poop yourself.
It's
unlikable
not pooping yourself.
Explosive diarrhea. Got it. We totally understand.
You threaten them with a crack of the.
Are you sure it's not?
If any of you look, if you come to Australia, I'm gonna send you out into the wild and we'll see what you come back with. How many angry Australians are chasing you?
You're gonna be alive while the spiders biting you?
Yeah.
All the poison.
I'm gonna walk around with Fosters and I'm just gonna raise the can up
just
and go fair dinkum. Fair dinkum.
Oi, fair dinkum.
I can picture.
Oi, fair dinkum.
On average, how many kangaroos do you have to interact with?
Yeah, what's the kangaroo per hour experience there?
I say
KPH.
not as much as not as often, but the kangaroos like golf courses because they're like immaculate grass, and I drive past a golf course and you often see a kangaroo on the golf course.
So are kangaroos like Australian deer then, basically?
Probably. There are a lot of them. You don't really eat them though. You eat mostly deer, don't you?
I don't think. I mean, some people hunt deer and eat it, but I don't think it's super common.
Yeah, it's not commercialized.
It's similar.
It's like pork, chicken, and steak is what's expected typically.
Yeah, if you go to a cafe and they're serving deer, you'd be like, "What?"
It's
It would be weird to see. Oh, they got a deer burger on the menu.
So is it weird if they're serving kangaroo at a cafe?
Yeah.
Okay. I think
it wouldn't be at your standard cafe. No.
I think elk is more common than deer.
Yeah. Kangaroo is also can be very tough if you don't cook it right.
Right, all that boxing that they do. Heavyweight
boxing.
All
the
bouncing.
That's how ripped they are.
Yeah.
All right, we better end this show.
Please, lie me food. Stop.
Mac, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for reading with us.
Yeah, thanks for.
Hey, can we just get more guests on and get them to read the TWAB?
Yeah, we'll put them to work. Where
That'll be the new job of each guest.
Yeah, exactly. Where can people find you?
Today's me. So twitch.tv/Mactics is where I stream. I typically do Grandmaster Nightfall carries over there. So if anyone's ever needing help with Grandmaster Nightfalls or they just feel like watching Grandmaster Nightfalls, that's typically what I'm doing over there. And then if you just type Mactics into YouTube as well, typically that'll be a lot of PvE centered guides. And I also try to hit on kind of fundamental educational branch, because I feel like there's not a lot of content out there, and I think that's something that gets missed on a bit. And then sometimes I'll do analytical stuff like this TWAB is heaven for me because I love looking at the numbers, theory crafting, kind of making predictions. And then Twitter is Mactics G1 as well, I think.
Can you spell that also?
Was taken. Yeah, MACTICS.
Cool. It's for everyone out there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we really appreciate it. And you guys, make sure to go check out Mactics. Awesome, dude. Awesome times here on DCP. And thanks.
Fair dinkum.
Fair dinkum's around the clock.
Is that a fair dinkum out of 10, Mylan?
How many budgie smugglers can you put in a fair dinkum? If you're
how many budgie smugglers fit in a thong in a fair dinkum out of?
Yeah, while you're gonna go get your Winnie Blues from Mrs. Max and that servo.
While you go,
make sure not to crack the shits. Don't want to have to get new pants.
Don't copulate with spiders.
Diarrhea is bad, you know.
Yeah, it'll ruin your day.
There it is. We solved everything. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
We're basically Australian now.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Help.